Okay, good morning everybody. Morning members, welcome to the Communities Committee. I'd particularly like to welcome Dougie Campbell, David James and Tommy Sloan as the first and third new members to this committee, and see David back again. For your worthwhile contributions, David, as always, thank you. As members know, the Communities Committee remit has been considerably extended, and this is reflected in the volume of business that we will need to deal with today. My notes here are telling me that I've enjoyed the new remit, and along with the Vice Chair, we're getting to grips with the new responsibilities. It's a massive portfolio. And John and I are really keen to ensure that the support of the staff from across the Directorate has been invaluable. It's a good prompt for our latest good news announcement. I'd like you to welcome, sitting along the wall here, are the Council's Financial Inclusion and Welfare Support Team, who have won the Institute of Revenue's Rating and Valuation, that's IRRV Performance Award for the Scottish Team of the Year, due to the innovative and customer-focused way services are delivered by a dedicated team of staff. The team also supported the Head of Neighbourhood Services to deliver a presentation to the IRRV conference on our Council's approach to tackling poverty, and this has resulted in a number of local authorities making follow-up inquiries for more information, and we know we've had at least one visit from another authority already to see how we've been doing things. The success means that our entry will now be considered for the IRRV UK Performance Awards next month, and obviously the best of luck in that. So I'm sure you'll agree that this is a fantastic achievement for the team and testament to all their hard work and commitment throughout the year. Again, as I said, I'd like to welcome the team here who kindly attended this morning, and on behalf of the committee, can we pass on our congratulations. Okay, thank you. This is for, so you can file out or just get back to your desks. You know? I'm not sure which it is, right? But okay, thanks very much for coming, and best of luck in the British finals. Yeah, thank you. I'll just let them file out. Okay, I'm also delighted to advise that our Commission on Representation and Engagement is a finalist in the 2019 Go Awards Scotland in the Social Value category. These awards recognise excellence in procurement and commissioning, and the co-production approach that we have taken in this commission is rightly being recognised as best practice at national level. So again, congratulations and well done for getting to this stage. Some members of the commissioning team are here today. Yes, thank you. With their finalist certificates, Liz. Yeah, absolutely, well done. And obviously we wish you best of luck on the 29th of October when the winner will be announced. Okay, thank you again, so thanks very much for coming, and good luck at the thing. Where's Rachel? I'll just give it a minute. I've got one last thing in the introduction. I'll do it just now. When she comes in, you'll know exactly who we're talking about. It's no Andrew Wood. The community's graduate Rachel Fulton has joined us in the next tranche of graduate trainees, and she'll be observing the meeting as part of her induction programme, and her role over the next 9 months is to develop our volunteering model. Okay, so you'll see Rachel throughout your time. If you need any support or help, I would suggest we'll get her. She's in Blue Street, am I right? Yes. So that's there. I'm also going to take a late update on item 6 as a late bit of paper, which I think will be of interest to a number of you anyway, and it's to give you some indication about what's happening with a particular roads issue. But I'll leave that until we get to there rather than talking about it now. Okay, so that's the introduction over. We've got SEDERUNT apologies, Claire.
Okay, thank you, Chair. We've got 16 members present this morning. 4 apologies. Councillors Bell, Dempster, Marshall and Tate. 1 member not present, Councillor Ronnie.
Thank you. Have I got any declarations of interest? Andrew? Okay, thank you. Are you staying in? Yeah? Yeah, okay. That's a consultation process, isn't it? Yeah. Anyone else? No. So we move on to the minutes of the meeting of the 11th of June. This minute is for noting. Are we happy to note? Thank you. In that case, we'll move straight on to item 5, which is the Community's Revenue Budget Monitoring Report.
Item 4.
Did item 4, did we? All right, sorry. Yeah, sorry, I forgot. The delegation to communities, item 4. It's just 2 seconds. Yeah, it's a procedural report emphasising the revised remit of the Communities Committee. Derek will take any questions on the report if you have any. David?
Yeah, just for experience, could you just tell me what the difference is between communities now and then? What have we taken on extra? Just quickly, if you may.
Thank you, Chairman. Morning, members. Councillor James, yes, in its simplest terms, we've taken on responsibility for legal and democratic services. We've also taken on responsibility for roads and waste. We've also taken on responsibility for leisure and sport and all aspects of well-being, as well as trading standards and environmental health. That's the summary. More than happy to provide any more substantive detail if you personally or any other members request that, but that's the headline difference. Happy to provide, Chairman.
Okay, David. Anyone else? Sorry, we're happy to note. Yeah, thank you. We'll move on to item 5 then. Sorry, Caroline, I'm keeping you waiting here. Okay, we're asked to note the details of the budget available for communities in financial year 2019-20, along with an initial forecast of performance against budget for each of the service functions, based on the position at the end of the first quarter of the financial year. I've got Derek, obviously, and Caroline McQuiston here to take any questions on the report, and unless there's any, Adam, I'll go straight forward. Yeah, okay, Adam.
Sorry, just a point of clarification. I see on page 27 under Safe and Healthy Communities, we've got a housing element in there that's sort of showing a underspend. I read from that. Just wondering, I thought house had moved to Common Resources, but if I could just get some clarification on that.
Thanks, Chairman, through you. Thanks, Councillor Wilson. Yep, there's a core element of housing that remains within communities that was agreed as part of the change, and that relates to landlord registration as well as the gypsy traveller aspect of it. Whether we continue to define that as housing is something that officers will work with, and the Head of Service is certainly conscious of that. I think in financial terms, the legacy will be housing, but going forward it's something that we need to look at, and that prompt's quite helpful as a good reminder. So we'll pick that up as part of the ongoing change.
Anyone else? Andrew?
Thank you, Chair. Once again, it's on page 26. It was really just to get an understanding of the cut, the £200,000 cut on training and development, what the impact on that will be.
Happily deal with that, Chairman. I'll bring in through you Richard Greaveson to give more specific detail, but in essence this was a saving that was agreed as part of the budget, and with all savings there will be implications, but these will be appropriately managed. But as I say, bow to Richard for more specific detail through yourself, Chair.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Not a significant amount to add further. In addition to the Director's comments, Councillor Wood, that is a budget saving that was taken on board, but it will be mitigated through the training development programme moving forward throughout the whole of the Corporate Council.
Sense of continuing with DG1, I think the figure that it was costing in its old form was about 600,000 a year. And then I'd asked about that going forward, and I was told, well, we're going to optimise and things will be better. But in the press, at one point, I think I read that it would cost about £1 million a year, but that might be a wrong report. And I noticed that the budget is not going up. It's less than 200,000, the increase. Do we have an anticipation of how DG1 would perform? I'm assuming it comes under leisure facilities.
Richard, can you hand that?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. As members will see from a report later on in the papers today, the reopening of DG1 has been a great success to date. Significant increases in number of members and attendances, and a consequential increase in revenue is projected, but albeit that we're at a very early stage. We're in a honeymoon period. Whilst there has been additional revenue generated, there's also been some additional expenditure. We would, however, look to continue to monitor that situation, and we would hope to positively contribute to the community's and corporate financial position at the end of the financial year. But in terms of the revenue budget is as was agreed by members for DG1 previously, and the reopening just reflects that.
So we're expecting perhaps that we might actually be running a surplus on running DG1.
Through you, Chair, we have an agreed revenue budget position, a level of subsidy for DG1. The target is for us to deliver that facility, deliver those services on the agreed level of subsidy. Anything that we achieve over and above that in terms of the levels of revenue or reduced expenditure would reduce the level of subsidy that's been applied to DG1 through the revenue budget.
Can I be reminded of that number?
Top of my head, Chair, it's in the region of 1.1 million.
Okay. Adam?
So just in the back of that, can we get confirmation this is actually the quarterly report up to the 30th of June? So the fact that DG1 didn't open until July means that actually, any increased income wouldn't actually be reflected in this report?
Absolutely. I think that was a statement, Adam, rather than a question, wasn't it? Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. It's on page 35, the last one on roads and infrastructure. I was just getting clarification on the last point where it says that there's insufficient funds at present to progress the works. What will happen there, and when do you anticipate that works will progress?
Andrew, can you repeat the question, please, because I kind of missed the first part, yeah.
Sorry, a wee bit dry. Anyway, yes, it's on the roads and infrastructure, and it's to do with Marchfield. And at the end, it's the statement states, however, there are insufficient funds at present to progress the works. This is after Stories Construction Limited are to pay a sum of 293,000, I'm assuming.
For everyone's benefit, we're talking about page 35. Okay.
Thank you, Chair. The funding there is actually a holding account for developer contributions associated with the Marchfield development, and the objective is that these developer contributions would go towards necessary junction improvements on the Edinburgh Road and the Marchfield access. And at the present time, but I think the report's just pointing out that these are at quite a low level, but they would continue to be collected and apportioned to that future work with the completion of units on that development site.
Yeah, okay, so that's under the service reserves. It's reserves part. Does that answer your question, Andrew? Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Willie? Yeah.
Yeah, Chair, Adam's already referred to it in terms of housing, and I'm looking at page 29 where savings already secured of 120,000, and I heard what the director says in terms of housing, that the remit may not lie with us. And then again on page 27, it refers to a further underspend of 20,000. we've just heard, or we have seen and witnessed, the award to our department that deals with welfare and so forth. I'm just wondering, while we're maybe not seeing people sleeping on our streets, I don't know about Dumfries, but we're still seeing people sofa surfing, people without houses and so forth, many falling into the trap of rent arrears and so forth. Are both these figures reflecting the true need and assistance that many people require? And really what I'm asking is, what's the effect of these savings on the people we're trying to serve?
Harry, can you come up and take that question, please? Yeah. Thanks, Stephen.
Thanks, Chair. Well, the simple answer is, I guess, that the number of homeless applications in Dumfries and Galloway has dropped. So we've always said we've taken these savings forward, risks assessed what the impact would be, and put in the necessary mitigations. As members will see in another report on today's agenda, in terms of welfare reform update, there's quite stark figures in terms of the number of evictions that have been prevented in Dumfries and Galloway, and the positive financial consequences of that. In our mind, it's better to stop the problem from happening in the first instance.
In that case, then I'm happy to move to the recommendations. Are we happy to agree the recommendations outlined at 2.1 to 2.4? Agreed. Thank you very much. Let's we'll now move on to item number 6. Okay, Claire, can we get the update, please, just before we start?
Thank you, Chair. Have all the members had the update? Sorry.
Just take a minute or two, give them a chance to read it. Yeah. Okay. Are we comfy to start? Yeah, you have a chance to read it? Okay. I've got Duncan and Tony here to answer any questions members might have. So we've seen the bit here. I'll just let the officer speak because he'll tell us just if you anything you want to add to what you've got there.
Thank you, Chair. I mean, I think the update's pretty comprehensive. There is a weight restriction on this Kirkcudbright Bridge, but over and above that, there's a system in place which is designed to prevent 2 heavy goods vehicles on the bridge at one time over any of the spans coming from opposite directions. That system's been in place for quite a number of years now, and it's basically has failed, so we have to look to replace it. In the interim, we would look to either to impose a temporary weight restriction on the structure down to 7.5 tonnes, and also seek members recommended to agree for the inclusion of the £20,000 to allow us to progress to get the system be reinstated.
Okay, thanks. I'm going for member. I've got Dougie first, and then Adam.
Thanks, Chair. It's just obviously this is the first time we've become aware of the issue with the vehicle detection system, and I have to be honest, I didn't know there was one. And strikes me that we need to make sure that as widely as possible people are aware that this restriction is in place. So just to ask what the communication strategy is in place for that, and practically what will motorists and pedestrians see? Can you maybe expand on that a wee bit, please?
Okay, Chair. Yeah, thank you. It's possible it's not been
common knowledge to members of the public, but there has been a system in place since the 1990s, because the issue with the bridge was detected back as far as that. You're right, we'll have to do a process of communication through to the public, because alternative routes will have to be identified for them. So yeah, there'll be signage basically put out. There'll be an order have to be raised for the temporary restriction onto it, so that'll be advertised, and also signage etc. put out, plus communication submitted out to the public.
Yeah, thanks. It's just thanks for that explanation. I'm struggling to actually see how practically this would be enforced. And also another question that comes to mind is, will the bridge be closed at any point, and how long will this work take, assuming that approval is given for the funding of it?
Okay, I mean, in the immediate term, we will look to get the weight restriction put into place. So effectively, the signage goes up for that. So it's basically breaking the law if you go over the bridge when there's a weight restriction on it. So we'll stress that to the members of the public. Large vehicles that are oversized shouldn't be using that structure, but the alternative route, the diversion route, would be signposted as well. Timescale wise, we saw an initial quotations, initial quote from one of the companies that we've used in the past. We have that as a marker, hence the reason for the sum of money we're coming to look for today. So on the assumption that we get that agreement, we will go out and put out seek quotations from other companies as part of a procurement process and get an award made within a week or two, I would think. But it could be, in terms of the works or in terms of what's, it could be a few weeks yet. Yeah, this temporary restriction will have to be in place until such times as the system is operational again through the signage.
Okay, Dougie, you happy? Yeah, I've got a number. I've got Adam, then Andrew, Wood, and Ian in that order, and then David.
Thanks. Just in 3.16, it's discussing car parks. I'm sure we all agree that all of our train stations in the region are strategic.
Adam, we're dealing with this bit just now. We'll come to that later.
All right, okay.
Okay, just get the urgent business out of the way first, then we'll go into the general report. So we can leave that just now. Andrew?
Thank you, Chair. It was to get an understanding of the impact assessment that's maybe been done on the bridge. Do we know how many lorries cross it, and do we know how it will impact on local business and agriculture? Because I understand there's quite a few tractors and trailers use it for silage time, etc.
Okay.
Thank you, Chair. I don't have that information to hand, but I'm well aware how sensitive this bridge is in terms of access for the community. So we can certainly look at numbers if you wish to have those. We can pull that together. But I think for today, the key thing is we have to get the system back in place so we can have the temporary weight restriction taken off it, and those vehicles would then be permitted, if they're within the 17.5 tonne limit on the bridge, they could still make use of that structure. You did make mention of rerouting. Do you have any indication at this stage of what the distance, the extra mileage might be? I don't have that to hand. I know that, hence the reason it's a sensitive matter. The rerouting isn't inconsiderable. Again, that will be made public. The routes will probably be known to the community from the past when the bridge has been worked on, but we will reinstate that and put that information out.
Okay, thanks, Andrew. Ian?
Thank you, Chairman. With regards to the diversions, I take it signage will go back as far as A75 at Gatehouse, and also what's the weight restriction on the bridge at Tungland, and particularly the width of the bridge at Tungland, which could cause an issue about two opposing HGVs.
We take our guidance as we do with any road closure or road restriction from our road service. So we'll be discussing with them the most appropriate routes for traffic to take during this imposition of the temporary restriction on this bridge. That will be taken into consideration in terms of the other bridges which could potentially be impacted.
and that will definitely have to be considered.
Do you have any indication just now about what that weight restriction is?
I don't.
Because other than the course road, I don't know that there's another route into Kirkcudbright.
I think to be fair, I'm not going to answer for you, Duncan, but this has just come up and it's an emergency thing, so there's obviously work that we have to be done before we go to the next stage. I'm going to suggest when we come that Duncan can update the committee on what the processes are and how they're going to do it. Because we got this just a few minutes ago, really. Yeah. I don't know what to put words in your mouth, Duncan, but I think you would need a bit of time to pull all that together.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Yes, Chair, that is the case. But we're working with our roads colleagues to pull together the proposals for the diversion route, taking into account the matters you've raised.
Thanks. Yeah, Ian, you want back in?
No, that's fine. Okay.
David? You want back?
Thanks for letting me back in, Chair. Can I ask that, clearly there's a lot of questions have arisen because this is new to us, but can I ask that a briefing goes out to all ward members once you've got the arrangements in place, and also the community councils, not just Kirkcudbright Community Council, but you've got several around Kirkcudbright, and it could be used as a mechanism to respond to inquiries that are going to undoubtedly come from the community along the lines of the sort of questions we're asking today.
Thanks, Dougie, but I think I'm going to ask Duncan when he does the update, he gives it to all members because it will affect a lot of people outside that area who use that bridge on a regular basis, so it's only fair it should go to everybody. Okay, is anybody else on this particular issue? I'll deal with the recommendation and what we're being asked to agree at the end when we're summing up, Duncan and Tony. So thanks just now, and if we need any back, we'll get in touch with you. You can come forward. Aileen, you're here to get questions on the big report. So we'll move on to the big report now. Yeah. Are you happy? We'll just go straight to questions. Or, yeah. Okay. Thank you. Okay, Tommy.
Thanks, Chair. I'm just looking at 3.29 Stranraer Harbour, that the new automated barrier entry system to the harbour is now fully operational. Well, when this document went to press last week, I can assure you it wasn't fully operational. There was engineers down working at it. And I'd be obliged if officers could temper their language when they're telling us how well projects are doing. To say that the new leisure centre has been very successful, I think we shouldn't be taking any lapse of honour until we find out through time. Thanks, Chair.
Yeah, I think that was a statement, Tommy, really. Yeah, okay, thanks. Adam?
Yeah, cheers. As I was saying about car parks and Lockerbie Station, it would be good to know, there was a statement made by a previous director of the council that, we would start to see work progressing at the end of this calendar year. And it is a bit, I appreciate that there's been quite a long negotiation to take place, but I think it would be useful to get some sort of indicative timescales as to when we'll actually start work starting the ground. And it would also be quite useful to know if any of the sort of private operators on the tracks or Network Rail or ScotRail have sort of came to the table to offer any funding to help with that project, because it's a really pressing issue for people in Lockerbie, but for those passengers who use Lockerbie train station.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning. The whole project has been delayed, unfortunately, and it's been a variety of issues that have caused that. A paper is actually going towards the West Strand Board on Friday to give an update on the position regarding funding from their side. Now, the project as a whole at the moment is still under design phase because we're waiting for a transport assessment, and a full transport assessment of the whole area has to be undertaken before detailed design can be completed and then planning submitted. So that has obviously, there are sort of significant hurdles to cross, and that is unfortunately what is causing the delay at this stage.
So just on a sort of timescale, how long will it take to do that appraisal?
I'm sorry, I actually don't know to hand exactly how long it'll take, but I know it is definitely in hand and the appraisal is being undertaken. If not at present, it will be undertaken imminently, and then that will then inform the design. So it's unfortunately sort of a slightly lengthy process that we're having to go to third party for the assessment because it is an independent review, and then that will inform the design for moving forward. So unfortunately, I cannot give you a timescale at present, but we will get back to you as soon as there's any further information.
Okay, thanks. Willie?
Thank you, Chair. I'm looking at page 40 and 3.30, 3.30, coastal infrastructure. And as one who raised this issue in terms of Dymil coastal protection, I actually had thought, and I believe I got emailed to say that there was nothing wrong with the embankment. Now I'm reading something different. But I'm also reading, in terms of inspection work, identified 135 metres of concrete revetment requiring rock armour. Maybe somebody could say to me what revetment means there, but I don't, I presume it's just putting in the rock armour. And then it goes on to say council liability may be much less than originally understood. Well, I'm getting mixed messages here, and I'm delighted to see that, it's been identified there is a problem there, that it's being addressed, but, what does this paragraph actually mean for the people who are continually travelling on that road, who are frightened to death that something's going to happen and that the embankment's going to collapse and the road is going to follow? So I think I need more detail on that one. Likewise, in 3.31, and again I'm delighted to see that we eventually got out and spoke to the people of Drumore. But my understanding is, and I know there's a report coming, or it says here there's a report coming to the November meeting on that consultation. But one of the issues that were raised at the Community Council, the Capmaiden Community Council, was that the road that we're going to be, the diversional route that we're going to use, is equally as dangerous in terms of passing places, needing passing places in it, that it's a very narrow road. I take it, and it may be in November we'll hear all this, but I just asked the question, that all has been taken on board. And again on 3.29, like Tommy, I read with interest in terms of the barrier, where the people of Stranraer did not want the barrier. And Adam's left, but he whispered in my ear there, it's maybe better it doesn't work for the folk of Stranraer at least. But it's to the second part, alternative access to boatyard slipway. Currently, the car park is being used, the access and egress route to the car park is being used. At one time, there was a height restriction barrier at that car park that has been removed and never replaced or returned. And I just wonder, that will support full planning applications. What's in mind here? And I'm only hearing by text this morning, we're talking about closing the car park for 4 months, or rather a month, 4 weeks in the coming weeks. And there's nothing in here that indicates that. There are many people use that car park from the Agnew Crescent, and where are they going to be displaced? I prefer the car park wasn't closed, but what's the reasons behind that 3.29? Number of questions there, Chair.
Okay, Aileen, can you take them in order? I think there's 3 questions there, different issues.
Thank you. Can I defer to Duncan, please, for just the engineering aspects of the first 2 questions, then we can come back in the car park. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. The works at Dymil, we carried out works, physical works there, December last year, which was sort of critical works that were being done to protect the road asset, which is hence the reason why we have been involved there. But you probably may well be familiar, there is also a private dwelling along the coastline there, which also has responsibility for their own protection to their premises. And what's referenced here in terms of liability for the council, it's on further examination of deeds, we're not convinced that we do have liability that extends to the limits that the dwelling owner originally thought. So we've gone in and done what was necessary and what was critical to be done, finished those works. We had some other smaller works planned, larger works initially planned for this year, but that was taken out because of this dubiety over the legal position. But there may be some smaller pieces of work we would do, but nothing extending to the 135 metres that's quoted here. And the concrete revetment, its reference is essentially the concrete face and slope, which is the nature of that old treatment for that part of the coastline. In terms of item 331, we had a positive meeting with the community recently there, and we're back out tomorrow. Some of the officers are out tomorrow to go down, and one of the tasks is to knock on doors in some of the critical sections in terms of accessibility, but also to review again what becomes the diversionary route, because we were aware of some pinch points on that, and we'd proposed already some passing places and improvements on it. But following the public engagement, we've been alerted to other sections which would probably benefit from some improvement. So it's that exercise. Through that'll inform the measures that we bring forward. In terms of the Stranraer Harbour, the works we're talking about for the planning application, these were the kind of wider scheme of measures, which was linking down through the existing car park, off the existing harbour access road, a link road down to the boatyard and onto the promenade area, and there were some measures that we were looking to bring into effect there. Because of the scale of those measures, we're having to seek planning permission for it. So we have outline planning submission in at the moment for that, and we're looking to bring that forward.
Okay,
I'm not aware of the proposed closure of the harbour or the car park. Sorry, I wasn't aware of that.
Okay, I think that's two of the questions. So just a second, Aileen, can you get the middle question? Or
the third one really is what Duncan said exactly there about the harbour access and the car park. We will look into the restrictions that are obviously proposed at this stage, and obviously sort of try and minimise the impact to the community, because as you say, it is a very heavily used car park, and we would obviously like to sort of minimise the impact as much as possible. But obviously with the wider project and the whole sort of project as a whole, there may be restrictions, but the scheduling of that can very much be looked into.
Just a second, and I'm assuming here that you'll keep the ward members fully briefed on what the progress is?
Absolutely, yes.
Could I come back, Chair, and if we're really looking for savings under 3.29, just gear up on any further planning application, maybe save some money and satisfy the people of Stranraer in terms of that barrier and stop wasting money every time trying to sort it. Just on the coastal infrastructure, and I hear what Duncan said there, and about dubiety and liability, then the people are still travelling on that road. And they are concerned and frightened that the road is collapsing or at least breaking up, which would indicate there's something wrong with the infrastructure. That's our liability in keeping the people safe, and there's reference to it in a number of occasions in this full report. So I would hope that we would be able to satisfy the people who are using that road, because quite frankly, what you said, Duncan, doesn't fill me with confidence. Notwithstanding that there's liability on the property further on, which again, the steepness of the bank reduces further nearer to the house, although some years a motorbike did go into and ended up hanging on the roof.
I don't know if that's a question or a statement, Willie, that last, but I'm taking that's your view.
It's the liability and dubiety, and I think we need some assurance that it's being looked at, and the safety of the people are being considered alongside, and that we don't, worrying about who owns the land. It's the safety.
Well, absolutely. One of our priorities, of course, is to keep people safe. Okay, so that's unwritten. It should be embedded in everything we do.
Thank you, Chair. We're dealing here with infrastructure capital, which I'm assuming is new infrastructure, it's upgrades to existing, and cyclical work. And I know you'll correct me if I'm wrong, and I'm thinking things like pothole repair, they're in a different budget. But both of them, I think people in Dumfries and Galloway are very tolerant on the whole, and they would be more sympathetic to us if we were better at scheduling when something was going to happen and let them know, and then I think they would on the whole have a lot of patience with us. And the previous director didn't really make any progress on scheduling, or none that I noticed. And I think if we were better at scheduling as in having dates, even if something went wrong and the date had to move, people could monitor how close they were getting to seeing some progress. I'm looking here at Cotton Street on page 57, and it's programmed. I mean, that doesn't really help me, because obviously something's going to be done sometime in the future, but I mean, how would I know when that is? So in the interest of sort of transparency and our reputation, I think we should consider better scheduling, but I also think it's got a normal business would do that, because it would be more efficient to do that. So perhaps we can be more successful in the old directorate in doing that. And who knows, if we had a lot of information, then Willie Scobie could be even more successful in arguing for a 30% hike in council tax next year, because he'd have the details in front of him.
I'm not going into that one, but it'd be a drop in the ocean, the council tax, to fix some of the things we need to fix. Okay, Eric's got to deal with it.
Yeah, just thanks, Chairman. Be assured these are areas that we've identified for improvement, and therefore when members receive monthly ward reports, for example, going forward, information such as future plans, scheduling of works, are all areas we're currently looking at being incorporated into that. Alongside that, we're quite clear the earlier item, or the item in relation to the Kirkcudbright Bridge, there's quite clearly a substantial communications message to be entered into, and that's certainly not lost on me. So you can be assured that that is something that we are actively pursuing, and therefore we'll certainly always welcome feedback from members, suggestions, but the message is quite clear that the scheduling of works, the communication with the public and the wider community is something that we've identified as certainly an area for improvement, and work is ongoing within the management team to pursue that.
Brilliant. I look forward to progress on that. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. I've got Ian Howie and then Ian Blake.
Thanks, Chair. Ian, I'm just wondering if you're aware of going on to 316 on page 39, Lockerbie train station car park. Are you aware of any other mainline station which provides free parking for over a week on any vehicles?
I think that's a leading question.
Sorry, I'm not actually aware of other issues out with the authority. It's something we definitely can come back to you on, and it's something that is obviously being looked at sort of by transportation and by West Trans at the moment as well, and the impact there.
Ian Blake.
Thank you, Chairman. It's page 42 and 43 with regards to the New Abbey Road, Pleasance Avenue, Park Road junction. It's more of the funding structure that I'm surprised at. At the time that this was proposed, 2016, it was always put forward, as my understanding, it was always put forward that this was going to be fully funded by the NHS, and it was also part of the planning, the agreement for the new hospital. I see here now that it depends on a 50% construction stream funding from Sustrans, and also we're included in that as a council infrastructure asset class capital programme. Now, both yourself and the deputy leader, we attended a public meeting, and that's the sort of information that we were getting at that time. And just an explanation on that, please.
Who's doing that? Tony? Yeah. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, thanks, Councillor. Yes, I think the original scheme way back originally was a roundabout, and the NHS were putting money in as part, as you say, of a planning agreement, and the NHS had also asked for that any scheme would include for provision of cycle infrastructure, and obviously to promote active travel on the way out to the new hospital. Further then to a design review, incorporating Sustrans, we then moved to the signalised junction layout. Now this then obviously put the price up of the junction improvements, and the contribution from NHS wasn't enough to fully fund it. It's only part funding. So because we started working with Sustrans towards a more innovative design to incorporate active travel, Sustrans then offered to part fund up to 50% construction match funding, and they've actually been funding all the design work that they've been doing at present. So we've put an application in for just over £500,000 from Sustrans to fund this scheme. So that would mean with the NHS money and the Sustrans money, the actual money the council were putting in is a lot less. And it's just so happened we've hit a bit of a hiccup in this past couple of months with regards to the funding, and we can't actually meet the construction window over this winter, and we've therefore reprogrammed it for after the show next August. And so we've got a steering group coming up with Sustrans where we're hoping to secure this £500,000 worth of funding, which I'm sure everybody will agree will be much appreciated from them and go towards it and keep our costs down.
Thank you for that explanation. You understand, of course, this is really the first time it's come to this committee. So, could you tell me the level of the council? You said it's lower, but could you tell me the level of council funding and what committee agreed that?
Thank you. There has been a £250,000 allocation within the infrastructure asset class, and it has been there for the past number of years, and we've carried that forward into each financial year so that the funding was covered from sort of the council side of things. So it was always coming out of the infrastructure asset class roads budget at that point. And then, as I say, that's been carried forward. And again, if the works because the design works that are being undertaken this year are to be funded completely by Sustrans, we will then not have, the council money will then not be spent for that again this year, and that will be carried forward again into next year. And then it will very much be dependent on the finalised design and then the finalised costings again as to how much the council allocation will actually be. So unfortunately, although we have the 250,000 set aside for that, we can't put an exact figure to date.
Okay, thanks. I've got David Ingles and then Andrew Wood.
Thank you, Chair. Sorry to labour the point. If we can go back to page 40, item 329. This barrier was put in as the result of a letter from the Health and Safety Executive. I would like some assurance. I was aware that there have been issues over the last 6 months and the barrier has not been working properly. I'd like an assurance that we are now compliant with our health and safety responsibilities at the harbour and that this barrier is fully operational.
I'd defer to Duncan for that point. Thank you.
Chair, yes. There have been some teething problems with the barrier, and we're working closely with the contractor and the provider of the barrier to resolve that. But we've also advised the HSE what our proposals were and what we're doing, and gave them an update. I don't think they've come back to us on that, and they probably wasn't expecting that, to be honest. But yes, we believe that that's the solution to make it compliant. That was the right thing to do, and we'll have to just work harder with our contractor and supplier of the barrier to make sure that it's working fully.
Okay, we're fine with that, David.
Yeah. Thanks, Chair. Yeah, I'm just concerned that it's taken 6 months to get this issue sorted out. It would seem a fairly simple system, an automated barrier system. You know, my concerns are that if it's not working after 6 months, it should be binned and a new system put in.
I think that's a statement rather than for a question. We'll let you off the hook there, Duncan. Okay, I've got Andrew Wood, and then, unless there's anything pressing, I'm minded to go to give him a big agenda. Andrew, last.
Thank you, Chair. I don't want to become too parochial. Maybe I've been working too long with Councillor Dempster. But on 3.45, when you're talking about the Moniaive Primary School and the 20-mile speed limit, my understanding, and I think it's the same with the other elected members in that ward, was that that was programmed some 4 or 5 years ago for safer routes to schools. Does this mean that we're actually missing out on the European funding that was being given at that time, or what is the status?
Can I again defer to Tony on that one with the whole active travel
Yeah, thanks, Councillor. I can't answer in regards to what happened 5 or 6 years ago. I've been in post for a couple of years now, and when I took over, there was about 25 primary schools left still to have the 20 mile an hour implemented. Now, the prioritisation criteria, as you probably know, is based on the school roll. So the more pupils at the school, they had the higher up of the pecking order. So I've been working through that, and Money Ive's the next one on the list, and we're using our the budget for speed limits and traffic calming to implement these 20 that are left to do.
If you don't mind, Chair, that would help. You haven't quite answered one of the points, and that was, are we missing out on the European funding that was given to safer routes to schools? And the other point would be, what is the timeline of these works starting?
Okay, to answer your first point, I'm not sure about the European funding for the schools.
As far as I'm aware, that was a pot of money for a number of years ago, and it was then spent to date, and it was then a project that was then being carried forward so that the council as a whole could complete our side of things. So it was done on as Tony said, on the basis of roles, and we worked through that pot of money for those projects, and it's something that aspirationally we wanted to complete so that every school within Dumfries and Galloway had this speed limit against it. So it is now being capitally funded out of the infrastructure asset class capital budget.
Your last point, well, we're starting now. These can take between 6 months and 12 months to implement, depending on, we could receive objections to the order. For Money Ive in particular, when we looked at the school, we thought it might be a good idea just to implement it across the whole town centre. So we've already carried out speed surveys around the town at various points, and these have indicated that speeds are within the 20 mile an hour region anyway, which means we can implement the 20 mile an hour without the need for physical traffic calming. So the next stage now is a bit of consultation, and we'll probably do a public information event for the people of Money Ive, with a questionnaire, ask if they're all in favour, and that'll make the process a lot quicker when we go to advertise the order. So I'd like to think with spring, summer next year it should all be in place.
Okay, Tony, just we're absolutely clear. So the time delay is because there's a process you need to go through, and there's certain time limits on each part of the process. Yeah, so that's fine. Thanks very much. Anyone else? No, sorry, I might need to move on now, actually. So we're going to move to the recommendations. I'll start off with, are we agreeing 2.1 and 2.2? Good. Willie?
Could I just seek clarification on 2.2 with particular reference to what I said in 3.30, the coastal infrastructure that we get, and I know you said keep us advised, that maybe we get a report on that because of the safety or the travelling public on that. And maybe just to clarify, David Ingalls, that the Health and Safety Executive did not recommend a barrier. They asked us to look at the health and safety. It was the council that introduced the barrier, and they was talking about bidding it. I would support them.
I was taking that as a given, Willie, that there would be proper consultation engagement locally through the director and through the service. Duncan, kind of quickly.
Sorry, Chair. Just on the Dye Mill matter that you raised earlier, Councillor, the works we did in December were because the council, we believed that was a potential threat to the road, ultimately, if it was allowed to deteriorate, so we took action. So any measure we do, we're always taking it with the foresight of public safety and the travelling public on that road. So whilst we're saying there is an issue in terms of the liability for the asset, if the road becomes in danger, we will intervene. But we're not intervening now because there's no need to intervene at this moment because the road's not in danger of falling in, if you like, at that particular location on the coastline.
Okay.
Yes.
No, move on. So we've got 2.1, 2.2. Are we happy to agree then with the confirmation that Duncan's given that safety is paramount always? Happy to go forward. We need to add a 2.3, and that's we recommend to agree to the inclusion of the replacement of the vehicle detection system at Kikubery Bridge at an estimated cost of £20,000 from the structures programme to expedite the replacement works. Are we happy to agree that? Right? No, we didn't agree it. Well, we said we'd leave it to the end, Andrew. Okay, so we agreed. Yeah, thanks very much. Okay, so moving on to item 7, the Capital Investment Strategy Land Asset Class Capital Programme 2019-20 to 21-22. Members are provided with an update in relation to the project and financial progress of the Land Asset Capital Programme, and Karen is here to take any questions. Karen, are you need any add? Are you happy to go straight to questions? Thank you. So, right, nobody? In that case, I'm going straight to recommendations. So we're asked to note the financial and physical progress of the projects to date within the Land Asset Class Programme for 2019-20 as detailed within the report and the appendix. Right, we're happy to note. Thank you very much. Thanks, Karen. We move on to item 8, Neighbourhood Services and the Community Planning and Engagement Service Business Plan. The thing I was just going to say before we start with the business plans, we would assume that the issue of climate emergency will be included and embedded into all the business plans as a council priority. So, before we move on to that, so we're presented with the Neighbourhood Services and the Community Planning Engagement Service Business Plan for 1920 and 22-23 for approval. I've got Harry Hay and Liz Manson who will highlight some key issues contained within the plan and take any questions on the report. So over to you two just now.
Thanks, Chair. I'll very briefly touch on the neighbourhood services element, and I guess I'm in the fortunate position that the range of services that are covered under my portfolio were always with the communities, so I've inherited the elements that Harry Thompson was previously responsible for. So for, I guess, the focus for my element is about continuing to drive forward the communities model, which members I'm sure will be well aware of, and continuing to develop the synergies that have already started to be achieved. I think the focus as a council is changing in terms of working in a way that empowers and engages communities, and I think some of the work that this committee has seen over the last 3 years has certainly been testament to that approach. So it's to try and sustain the good work that's been done, and equally it's about trying to preempt some of the challenges that are coming over the horizon that we obviously need to plan and deliver our services moving forward. Liz will maybe want to touch on a couple of areas in terms of community planning and engagement.
Thank you. Yes, there's two general themes for the community planning and engagement service. The first one is really about embedding community empowerment across the council, consultation mandates, volunteer agreements, the CATs, participatory budgeting, all of these things that you've seen coming through in the last few months. And also about for us to look at what's coming next, what's the next stage in that whole agenda. And the second theme is about developing locality working. The ward officers have been in post now for 2 years. So we've got a really good foundation, but there's opportunities coming through, for example, the ward youth councillors. The borderlands have got a focus in place, the new community councils next month. And we've also heard that members are very keen to see information at ward level. For example, at the last full council, you wanted to see some of the child poverty information broken down to ward level. So there's certainly an appetite and there's a drive now for us to develop that locality planning, and we would see ourselves at the forefront of that with yourselves and with partners about how best we capitalise in that. And there's performance measures in the business plan for all of these issues, so this committee will be able to monitor our progress in making sure that these things happen. Thank you.
Okay, thanks very much. Just to remind everybody, this is the future as opposed to any historical things that we might be tempted to ask. So if we can deal with this as how we're going to take the business forward in the future, and if anybody's got other issues, historical ones, then I'm sure that Harry and Liz will be only too happy to meet up with you afterwards and discuss them. So looking at the future, looking at the plan, have we any comments? No. Sorry, David, yeah.
Community participation was a scheme that I thought there was some mileage in, albeit funded. And I've tried, looking back, to raise this with my erstwhile party as a project we could follow, and I've talked to you about it with no success. But there's another committee that might be interested in it, and before I engage with them, I wanted to ask whether that was still a thing, and have there been any developments, or is it a dead duck, as we were sort of advised last time I spoke to the Communities Committee?
I don't think we agreed that community engagement was a dead duck, David. That's
it failed, sorry.
Yeah. Right, okay. I'm not sure what your question is, but... to
update myself as to whether we were progressing with it at all, because the Economy Committee seemed reasonably interested in maybe pursuing it, but I just wanted to make sure that this committee had given up on it first.
But community engagement embraces everything we do.
Community participation.
Yeah, well, it's the same.
I think it was a programme whereby...
you're talking about community participation requests.
No, I don't think... Well, which was a programme whereby a community could offer to take over something, albeit on a voluntary basis. And I talked to the director one day in a car park about what I thought would be a good way forward, which was that we would actually part finance that. And I then thought, well, I'll try and talk to my party about it, and I didn't get further forward with that. And I talked to you about it as well, and didn't get far with that either. So I now want to introduce that to another committee who may be more interested. They seem to be when I raised it the other day. So just wanted to double check that we're not progressing that here.
Of course we're progressing it here.
And the update would be...
David, the whole council should be progressing that. Right? I think Liz is worth to what you're getting at here.
Is it possibly the Community Initiatives Enablement Fund? Is that...
No, I never heard of it. There was a scheme. I went to the seminar shortly after being elected where we had this. It was and we were told there was a scheme whereby a community group could say, well, we fancy cutting that verge, and council, could we take that over? And the council had, it was called community participation. And everybody thought it was participatory budgeting, and they got confused.
David, right, send the details out with here, because I know that in my ward, for example, that's exactly what's happening. Right? If it's not happening in your ward, then take it up with the officers as your ward councillor, as you're perfectly entitled to do. David, please, it's a strategic committee, right? Not for very local issues.
So this programme still exists then?
Yes, it
is. Strategic, but it hasn't been mentioned here, though.
Take it up with Liz and...
well, I'd like to know if this committee is pursuing that as a thing. I'm on this committee, and other members of this committee would like to know. So it's actively a programme that we have detailing somewhere that we could follow, and it's purely voluntary, is it?
David, speak to the officers outside the room. This is a strategic matter here. That's a very individual matter.
That was a programme.
Right, we're past it at that stage. You've made your point.
One last point.
No, what I'm saying to you, you take it out of here and you take it to the officers. Okay, moving on.
I told the officers the last time I was here, and I was told that there'd been basically no progress. Now, that might have changed radically in the last few months.
David, the chair has asked you to stop. Right, we're moving on. Please stop. Okay? Thank you very much. Okay, take it outside the meeting. No, let's move it on. Anyone else? Okay, is this a question, a separate question, Adam? Yeah? Adam, then Willie.
Well, no, I just wanted to clarify. It certainly comes across to me in this report that actually community participation isn't a thing, it's not a scheme, it's actually a principle we have in everything that we do. And I think that, that's maybe what David is trying to get to, but it certainly seems to me that, whether it's a community facility or cutting a verge, that's exactly what we're trying to achieve, and I think that's good work that we want to continue doing and strengthen in any way that comes about.
That was exactly what I was telling them. It's core business for us. We should be doing it all the time. Willie and then Andrew, yeah.
Yeah, Chair, I know I've asked the question earlier in terms of the £120,000 cut to housing, and I'm looking again at page 93 on our values: respect, integrity, fairness, equality, inclusive, openness and partnership. And I'm looking at that against that particular £120,000 cut. And then again on page 97, prioritisation, we recognise that there needs to be a stronger focus on those most in need. And it's just that things get missed. And I hope in terms of the cuts and the prioritisation that we got to be extremely careful that things don't get missed through the cuts and that standards are not compromised. And I refer to a recent incident in Stranraer in terms of the homeless accommodation, that we do maintain those standards, we do recognise and respect the people who are in the unfortunate position of having to use the services. So I just want that assurance that nothing in terms of the constant cuts, and it's not a criticism of staff, it's saying that when you're under pressure, constant pressure of cuts, that things do get lost and may be compromised. And that refers to in page 100, creation of welfare, and which prioritises homeless prevention, Chair. So I just want that assurance that we do not compromise through the constant cuts. I look at, again, I'm referring to page 102 in terms of community planning and engagement, and actually ask, what does that paragraph mean? The resource allocation of community planning and engagement services monitored and adjusted on a regular basis to ensure that we are focusing on supporting groups with low social capital and/or which deliver services to people facing the greatest inequalities. Could we maybe have some example?
Willie, that's about 5 questions so far.
Okay, I'll come back. There's a final one, Chair, and I'll come back to it.
Okay, but just before you do, there have been no cuts to homelessness. In fact, we've invested in it this year. Okay, so no, it's no debate.
My question was my question is and that standards are not compromised. Yeah. That's my question.
Well, I wouldn't think so when they're getting national awards for their work. But we'll move on. I got my officers to answer your question. Yeah.
Thanks, Chair. Specifically in relation to homelessness, very happy to reassure members that the homeless service as a whole is in a much better place than what it was 3 years ago. Without preempting the outcome, the Scottish Housing Regulator recently reviewed the service 2 months ago, and we're scheduled to bring a report back to this committee in November of this year with the formal outcome. Certainly the informal feedback we've had from the regulator is that there's been a marked improvement, and I think it goes without saying that in terms of how all our staff deal with homeless service users, respect, fairness and equality underpins exactly how we deliver our services on a day-to-day basis.
Okay, what was the other questions about? Because there's about 3 or 4 questions in there. Did you note what Willie was asking?
Just to come back on that one, and again, I'll make the point, I was not criticising any members of staff. I hold them in high regard. What I'm saying is, it's the standard, and I don't want to be specific, but was on a recent incident in the ward, was on the homeless accommodation, that we're not dropping in standards. That's my point. And that does not take away from the awards of the people that received it this morning.
Okay,
it's
well,
those standards.
Your point's made in that, and again,
Yeah.
if you pick it up, you Harry outside because it's an individual ward issue as opposed to the bigger
Chair, I don't need
strategic
to told that. Yeah, I have taken the issue up. I'm just making it aware to committee, because we don't want standards to drop. I refer to the community planning engagement in terms of what this actually means in reality. What the changes, prioritising those most in need from the social capital and/or which delivers people facing the greatest inequalities. Can you maybe explain what that and maybe with some examples?
Certainly, in terms of the prioritisation of the team's work, we would define people most vulnerable people perhaps, the groups that we work with in terms of tackling poverty, and the groups that we work with in terms of minority groups of protected characteristics. For example, indeed, the groups that have been part of the GO Award, which is about LGBT, people from minority ethnic communities, and people from minority faith communities. So that would be, and the refugee group, I guess, is another element. So that would be our sort of priority areas. But I think we do also take into account some of the very rural and remote communities in terms of our support for community groups there. So it is a constant evaluation, a constant balancing about our resource and the groups that we feel are in the greatest need of support.
Okay, I'm moving on, Willie. Andrew, not Willie, sorry, I'm moving on. You can come back in later. You'll come back in. You've okay, Andrew.
Thanks, Chair. It's with item 6, working in partnership, and it's good to see that you're obviously picked up on a lot of partners to work with. However, it'd be good if Swestrans was put onto that list. I think that community transport is a vital thing, especially for the future. We're going to have to work much more closely on developing, a good way of taking forward community transport. The other one is probably Visit Scotland. I wondered whether they shouldn't be a part of your discussion, because with as much asset transfer taking place within communities, these are becoming facilities that are maybe going to be of interest to the wider and broader community, and maybe they Visit Scotland should be involved within that. So just a suggestion.
Harry, I'll just let you in, but that's no the exhaustive list. That's just some people who might be involved in the process. Harry, do you want to add anything?
Yeah, no, quite happy to add the suggestion. In terms of Visit Scotland, obviously they're closely linked to the development of our cultural strategy as well, which is obviously critical to our region.
Right, Willie, you got a question, yep?
Yeah, Chair, it's just on page 104 again, paragraph 5, communicating and involving, and I relate that to page 128. This process information was previously reported as, and I'm referring here to member officer protocol, sometimes better known under EMIS. This process of information was previously reported at directorate level, and therefore comparator information at service level is being collated for this time for the new services. Derek and I have met with this in terms of member officer protocol, member receiving communication within a reasonable time, and I'm not suggesting it's within 3 and 15 days, but that members are kept up to speed with inquiries that they make. I got an assurance from Derek that that would improve, and I hope it does improve in terms of member workload.
Derek, do you want to take that one?
Yeah, just very briefly, thanks, Chair. Just to reaffirm for all members that you're at liberty to use the systems that you feel are appropriate. I would emphasise that year on year, the elected member inquiry service is generating increasing inquiries from you. As far as I'm concerned, that's a good thing. I'm particularly pleased to note that in comparison to the same period last year, the speed of these responses has improved. So therefore, it is improving, it's working, and therefore, for everybody's benefit in terms of the member officer protocol, I would endorse Councillor Scobie's point that if you use that, we've all got on the system, and therefore it's actively performance managed. And quite frankly, if there are any areas for improvement that you identify on an individual ward member basis, please feed them into us, because be assured this has been given the highest priority. We're committed to making it work for you, and therefore your feedback continuously is important. So in summary, we'd certainly emphasise there are different methods to communicate with us. We would certainly encourage the EMES system, as we're doing with MPs, MSPs and community councils. It's not just the speed of the response, it's also the quality of the response, and certainly informal indication we've had in the last few months is indicating that that's on a positive journey of improvement. So certainly appreciate your support in making that improvement. Thank you.
Okay, in that case then, I'm ready to move to the recommendations. Are we happy to agree the neighbourhood services and the community planning and engagement business plan for 2019-20 to 22-23? That's Appendix 1. And the changes to the performance information in Appendix 2. Happy agreed? Thank you very much. Sorry? We're still in 8, yeah. Okay, we're moving on to item number 9. Again, I just remind everybody this is not a historical document. This is moving forward. So it's to present members with the Roads and Infrastructure Service Business Plan from 2019 to 2023 for approval. Stephen Herriot here, he'll highlight the key issues contained within the plan and take any questions on the report. Okay, Stephen.
Thank you, Chair. So the service covers the integrated road service, bringing the strategic and the tactical together with the operational, similarly with the waste service, the collection service now joined in with the strategic part of the service that was in my service before, plus the ex-PFI contract services, bringing those together. It also covers engineering and project management, the harbour service, and the flood risk management responsibilities for the council. The plan before you has been developed with staff input, and I feel that the text and the graphics in it are vital to communicate to the staff why we deliver these services against the council priorities. The plan recognises the need for the service to develop through integration of the road service and integration of the waste service, and it takes into account, it accommodates the transition of the service towards embracing the principles of the community model, and within the model particularly the transformation of services, community empowerment and staff engagement, and how we can improve in terms of our service against these requirements of the community model. I think crucially the plan sets out the key behaviours of leaders, managers and staff within my service to do this integration and move towards the community's model, and I expect that it will be used to communicate those expectations and behaviours and understand the vision for the service. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks very much. We'll move to questions. Okay, Willie.
I see a wry smile coming on your face there. I hope you only given the time to develop. Page 166, and like the paragraph says, I would like to endorse what it says in a practical way. It says, dedicated to create an opportunity for all, will support ambition, promote and establish Dumfries and Galloway as the best place to live, work and learn. And for some that are paying more for less, they sometimes don't see it as the best place to live in terms of waste and refuse collection if you happen to be living in the more rural parts of the hinterland parts of Dumfries and Galloway. And I would hope that when Stephen is looking at the plan, that and he made reference to integration of road services, and I'll not refer to the particular area so that I'm not being parochial, but on a strategic level, if we are looking at it, that we do look at those areas where we may not be, we have not provided roadside or curbside collection or refuse, that we look at that when these integrations start and we see 40-ton wagons of timber being used, yet we seem to be saying that it's not fit for our RCVs, or refuse collection vehicles. So I think that we need to look at that and be constantly looking at that as a review, so that we do provide services to people who sometimes feel they're paying more for less and don't really receive that much service living out in the rural areas.
Steve?
In terms of the waste collection service, yes, that's kind of constantly under review as we're looking at integrating and bringing in the new routes with the change to the waste strategy and the waste vision and the curbside collection that has been implemented through EEI committee and is now coming through waste strategy implementation integration subcommittee. We're certainly keeping these things in focus, and reports will come to the waste subcommittee on matters such as this in terms of how we implement an efficient service and a safe service.
Okay, Stephen, just so we're absolutely clear, so it goes to the subcommittee and there'll be recommendations or coming back from there, back to the parent committee, back to here, because we retain oversight Is that correct?
Matters that will be considered by the subcommittee that require a decision of a committee will come back to this committee for a decision.
Just so we're absolutely clear, that's fine. Thanks. Is that your question, Willie? Fine.
Yeah, Chair, there's another reference to page 169, but I'll pick it up in a previous, another item on the agenda, and that's the lobbying for investment of key local transport infrastructure, including dualling where appropriate, the 75, 76, 77, 7. But I'll pick it up in
You want to pick up it later on? Yeah, okay, thank you. Anyone else? No. I think you've got off light, Stephen. In that case, I'm moving straight to the recommendations. Are we happy to agree the recommendation? Roads and Infrastructure Business Plan for 2019-20 to 22-23 in Appendix 1 and the changes to performance information in Appendix 2. Happy no? Happy agree. Thank you. Thank you, Stephen. Okay, this is the last of the business cases coming. Safe and Healthy Communities presented with the business plan for 2019-20 to 22-23 for approval. Richard Greason will highlight the key issues contained within the plan and take any questions on the report. Richard, over to you.
Thank you, Chair. As the Director mentioned earlier and as detailed on page 225, Safe and Healthy Communities brings together a range of quite diverse functions and activities, some of which are new to me, some of which are old friends that have returned. I'm certainly enjoying the challenges that's presenting. Key themes, members, there's been a significant amount of work that's been undertaken since April on the Keeping Communities Safe agenda, the integration of community safety and protection and resilience, functions of environmental health trading standards, as well as licensing standards, private registered landlords, houses of multiple occupancy, as well as the community safety and resilience teams. And whilst that was premised on achieving a saving, I'm really quite excited at the opportunities to provide a more efficient, effective and economic service that's developing as the new model is evolving. All areas of my responsibility, members, particularly leisure, youth work, lifelong learning, are embracing the principles of the community model, particularly around co-delivery, partnership working. The principles of capacity building are all quite critical in terms of how we're going to move forward in delivering these services in a sustainable way. Building on the success of the Year of Young People has been a key theme thus far, and taking on board the information that the 10,000 Voices exercise has presented to us in terms of informing how we deliver and plan for services targeting our young people has been a really critical part of the plan. Lifelong learning activities are very much now centred around a targeted approach to our most vulnerable communities, as Liz mentioned earlier, in terms of those services. In terms of the performance measures, members, we've reflected and amended and improved a number of the performance measures that were previously reported across a range of services committees, and particularly increased the detail and level of local reporting that will come to area committees in addition to the service committee and the performance measures that will be presented here. In the very short time, members, I've been involved in the service, I've been certainly highly impressed with the enthusiasm and quality, knowledge and commitment of staff and our community partners, all of whom have been engaged in the development of this business plan, and all of whom, again, were going to be critical in terms of delivering the business plan moving forward. Chair, I'm happy to obviously take any questions that members have.
Okay, thank you, Richard. I'm ready to go straight to questions. You didn't have to, Willie. Okay.
You desperate for your lunge, Andy. Chair, and it's a quick one, and Richard will know what I'm talking about because Richard attended the Joint Safety Committee, and what I would like to see, and I've already spoken on this subject at the Finance and Procurement, it's the report on increased accident reports, and the one that we received at the Joint Safety Committee. For that to mean anything, I would hope that we can populate that to the various service committees, and this one included, because the report is, it doesn't give us an indication of what's happening in reality, and that report with graphs did show that within departments of this committee that there was a concern as to the increased number of accidents and incidents within the departments. So I'm saying that Richard knows about it because he was there, and I'm putting it to you, Chair, that we should have that populated so that we can see it as well alongside the various reports on safety and health community service planning.
Just for clarity, Willie, are we talking about staff, are we talking about public, are we talking about both?
It's staff, Chair.
Well, actually, I would actually look at both, because we kind of look in isolation.
And I don't mind.
So it's a valid point, but leave that to Richard.
No, Chair, happy to agree that both are of equal importance and should and will be reported through this forum. Just for members' information, the Council's corporate management team also agreed that each head of service would attend the Joint Safety Committee on a rotational basis to report on health and safety within their specific areas of responsibility.
You okay with that, Willie?
Yeah, I appreciate what Richard's saying. That's to the Joint Safety. It's so that there's a link up with Joint Safety Committee to the various committees. And what I'm saying to this committee through yourself, Chair, is that maybe should have that report populated so that we can take cognizance of some of the incidents and that we're seeing some of the issues that are being reported to the Joint Safety Committee. I would hope that's agreeable with you and the committee, Chair.
I think it's a request we'd have to go to the Joint Safety Committee to share that, because remember the Joint Safety Committee set up under the Brown Book, Willie, which is makes it independent of the Council. It's the trade unions that actually form it, and we are then asked to go to it. Okay, so I'm just telling you because that was my thesis to get my diploma in health and social. Okay.
Just to expedite business, it was raised, and the trade union side's quite happy to have it populated.
Well, absolutely, and I think really the minutes or the stuff from the Joint Safety Committee should be coming back up through all the different departments, not just here. Absolutely. So, whilst I think what we can agree today, and I'm kind of looking at Derek here, is that we and Richard, we can agree that issues that arise at the Joint Safety Committee that affect our department, right, we can actually bring here. Yeah, okay. Because we would expect nothing less anyway, because we would be reporting on it as it is. Yeah. Right, okay. So, cool. That's it. Fine. Ian.
Thanks, Chair. Page 233, item 3, protecting most vulnerable people. Monitor air quality across Dumfries and Galloway and can act to require improvement if necessary. What kind of action do you anticipate taking? For instance, would you go down the route such as Edinburgh and Glasgow and introduce or consider vehicle exclusion zones for those that don't meet the latest European emission targets? Just wondering what kind of action you would anticipate taking under that heading.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Certainly under the work that we do within our environmental health colleagues' areas of work in terms of air quality and monitoring, the various activities that currently are ongoing, more specific, I can feed back personally once I've spoken to the members of staff, and perhaps Councillor Howie provide you with a more detailed note once I've spoken to environmental health colleagues. But obviously any matter specific to members of any specific interest in that regard can be raised and be taken forward as a consequence.
You okay with that, Ian? Yeah? Are you fine? Anyone else? No, in that case, we'll go to the recommendations. So we're asked... Sorry, David, I didn't see your hand up. Okay, go ahead.
Yes, thank you. Just a question about resilience. Quite a few community councils I've attended were surprised that there was no kind of template about how they should set themselves up to be resilient and what was best practice and how they fitted themselves into the overall picture. But I think there was talk about one being created. Has there been one created? Has it been distributed?
Thank you, Chair. Certainly my understanding is that there was a significant amount of work done around resilience and community councils based on a template approach. I'm happy to take that back to the team, Councillor, and feed back to you directly.
Are you okay with that, David? Because I know there's work ongoing with the community councils, and there should be some announcements imminent about the future community councils as we go forward. So that'll come to all
Just to
members.
tell, there's a template coming. It might even come out, but there's one coming, is there? Or there's what? There is already one.
No, I'm talking about the. We're in the middle of the process just now of electing new community councils. I'm just saying that's in chain, and it should be coming out relatively soon. I would suggest. I'm not sure of the exact date, but it will become knowledge to all 43 and the public just shortly what the outcome of those elections are. There will be elections for some. There will be some that are unopposed. There'll be some there's not enough.
I don't think that really matters. There will be ongoing community councils and even village halls. They're quite interested in this information. It just was, we seem to be quite well organised at council level, and Police Scotland have put out a sort of grab and go bag that you might like to organise yourself with, but community councils were kind of unsure how they fitted into the picture and what was the best practice. And there had been talk about a template or a pack for them of information, and it may well be finished. And my question was, is it finished? Is it out there? Or when will it come?
Just to reaffirm, Chair, I'll speak to colleagues within Communities Resilience and feed back to you directly, Councillor James, but I know there is a significant amount of work ongoing in that area.
We'll go to the recommendations. Are we agreeing the Safe Healthy Community Service Business Plan for 2019-20 to 22-23, which is Appendix 1, and the changes to performance information in Appendix 2? Happy to agree. Thank you. We'll move on to item number 11. Okay, and that's the South West Scotland Transport Study Initial Appraisal. Case for change, the study, which is a report by Head of Roads and Infrastructure. Council is committed to investment in our key infrastructure as well as lobbying for additional investment in the key local transport infrastructure. This is reflected in the programme for government. It is therefore essential that we consider the emerging issues from the draft South West Scotland Transport Study Initial Appraisal, particularly the study findings outlined in paragraphs 3.9 to 3.12 in the report. I've got Stephen Herriot here to take any questions, and accompanied by, you'll know, Douglas Kilpatrick. Is there anything you want to add to the report at this stage, or are we just happy to go to questions?
Nothing to add, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Stephen. So I'm going to open it up. Adam?
Thanks, Chair. I'm sure we all have our views on the actual study and the process and some of the projects that are within it, but I think we should focus on the response from the Council. I do welcome what's there already. I think it's very important that not only do we mention the possibilities for infrastructure upgrades, but actually make those fine arguments, particularly on A75 and A77 and the M74 corridor, and actually, as we go ahead with whatever happens with Brexit and actually the competition with other ferry ports that we'll have, but also the fact that could be the quickest entry route into the EU single market. So I think that it's very important that is highlighted, and I do welcome that in the response. The only thing I would say is that we declared a climate emergency in June, and that is a direction of travel that many people are taking, and we haven't actually mentioned active travel or any of the public transport options. And I think that it is equally important that those are highlighted in our response, particularly given the stag appraisals into the 3 railway stations, but also the types of public transport investment that we would want to see in this region. And I think it's important that that's highlighted in our submission, along with the fact that that's a direction of travel I think we all want to take, but is important in tackling climate change.
Okay.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Councillor Wilson. Both active travel and a certain amount of improvements to transport hubs, and certainly quite a lot of the interventions or the proposals are to do with railway stations. And to pick up your point about the text at the end and the commentary, I can pick up on active travel. It's recognising these are projects that are going forward, but I can pick up comments on that in the text at the end for the importance for a rural economy.
Okay, I've got Dougie and then Ian Howie.
Thanks, Chair. My question's been partly covered by Councillor Wilson's question, but just to re-emphasise, at 3.8, the key principles, the second bullet point makes reference to Scottish Government's climate change plan and the 23 multimodal option packages. Referred to active travel, national cycle network, transport integration, and various bullet points on rail travel. And I think it's important in terms of our feedback that we reflect in that feedback, not just in relation to active travel, but all those aspects in terms of the Council's priority now to give consideration to the climate change implications of any proposals that go forward in relation to transport infrastructure and modes of transport as well. So it's just to ask if we could have some reference to the climate change implications in our feedback to the Scottish Government. Thank you.
Take it. Yep, we'll take that on. Thank you.
Thanks, Chair. It's a very ambitious programme which is to be welcomed, especially when reference is made to overtaking opportunities on the A75 and A77 and the likes, including bypasses and dual carriageways. A big issue regarding overtaking opportunities now is lack of maintenance of tree canopies. Now, that might not be referenced to this report. It might be, I should have maybe brought that up earlier, but maybe it's something I can catch up with Stephen outside. But I've noticed that overtaking opportunities are definitely compromised now by lack of maintenance of roadside vegetation. I just wonder where that sits.
I mean, the tree canopies, yeah, you're right, but it's no loss in Stephen. I'm sure they'll take that away, that there's been some problem with the tree canopies, and no doubt you can catch up with him offline where that is. Yeah, your substantive question, Stephen, have you any comment?
So the question I picked, so it was on the tree canopies. Yes, I mean, if it's a matter for the local road network, if we know what the particular issues are, we can deal with that. And if it's a matter for the trunk road network, that this is, dealing with the kind of strategic transport network, then again, we can pass that on to the maintenance agents for Transport Scotland.
Okay, Willie?
Thank you, Chair, and thanks again for, I think you're saying you're going to circulate the correspondence on last night that I sent to the members this morning.
I said, yeah, but I would speak to it, but what I said to you this morning was I'll give you your time to actually articulate now.
Thank you, Chair. I did circulate a draft letter, and it was really just to see how we could improve our response to the study document that has come out, the draft study document that's come out. And I think there's a couple of important parts, and I think we've got to recognise against some of these TPOs and that we strike everyone, and yet in comparison we don't seem to be get the same adequate spend on both the 77, 75 and the 76. And we only need to look at the A9, for instance, where £3 billion is being spent on that over the forthcoming 10 years, a 10-year programme. And I think we need to be in that same category for the A77 and the A75 in particular, alongside the 76. I think the draft report makes statement that the future viability and success of these routes, i.e. the 77 and the 75, is therefore of key importance to Scotland as a society and an economy. The Irish Sea ferry market is highly competitive, and any loss of major customers to other routes could lead to a diminution of current services within the associated negative impact. And I think that the ferry companies have said that while they would never move away, there's a possibility they would rationalise the numbers of sailings, and we couldn't afford to have that. And I think the importance is to the ferry port at Cairnryan, and Adam refers to it as access to the single market. It's also feeding the Scottish market and the UK market, and we are competitive because it is the shortest sea crossing on the North Channel corridor, and we've got to maintain that. But the only way we can maintain that is through the improvements on the 77 and the 75, and the document falls well short of what's required. and also strengthens the perception that we are the forgotten corner, because it does lack ambition in terms of what is needed in both the 77 and the 75. If we don't take this opportunity in strengthening that, because then we could lose out, because this is setting the programme for the next 10 years. And we've got to be in there, not just on straightening parts of the road or taking away corners. We need to see massive improvements on this road if the hauliers are going to continue to use it and not migrate to some of the other sea crossings. And there are already investments in other ferry companies with bigger ships to take that transport to different areas. And the two roads are crucial in that development. In the TPO 3, for instance, improve the resilience. When you look at the diversion route, anything travelling north up the A77, it's to Newton Stewart and over the 714, which is worse than in. It's a nightmare, as once was said by an SNP MSP, when he had to travel that one. And that was Willie Coffey when the A77 Action Group met with him. So we need to be making these points that, same-day delivery becomes impossible if the road is closed, and it's often closed because of road traffic accidents. And we've got to highlight that, as we do in terms of distance between hospitals. And at one time, both the 77 and the 75 was closed, and there was an ambulance needing through. So we need to highlight the difficulty it causes for people west of the region in travelling through there, if both roads on that occasion happen to be closed. So I think we do need to strengthen the response in the narrative to highlight this, that we want to see these improvements. We want to be part, as the two trunk roads, as the major strategic trunk roads in the whole of Scotland, in comparison to any other trunk road in terms of servicing and feeding to the markets, the single market, the UK and Scottish market. So I think, in response, Chair, I did put forward a draft, but I would hope it's sufficient to pick up on some of these points to strengthen our response. I maybe would have given different scores, but that's immaterial. But I hope we would do that in the document, in strengthening, and the email was in a way to be helpful in suggestion of how we can strengthen these links. We recently made contact on a visit to Northern Ireland, and taking away the mythical bridge that we're hearing about now, from other quarters. I only heard it this morning again. We are making links with Northern Ireland. Northern Ireland recognise the importance of the 75 and the 77 and the Irish market. Then why are we not seeing it from the Scottish Government? We need to be highlighting that, and we have the total support both from Belfast City Council and now Mid and East Antrim Council. So I think we've got to be building on that and putting the case to the Scottish Government through this report, this draft report, Chair.
Right, Willie, I'm going to try and summarise to the best I can. You need it, you'll keep me right if I'm no. I totally agree with you about the lobbying bit, but it's also the Westminster, because we both of them, yeah. So there's no reason at all why we can't include, I would suggest, in the feedback from this council, and I'm looking for members here. I can't make the decision. You guys do. Is we need to make sure that the climate emergency is up. The infrastructure hubs are there. The transport hubs, and also beef up access. I'll paraphrase: beef up the access to port. Right. And again, Douglas has been writing away as we've been talking, taking notes, and I'm sure we can, we members' agreement, we can incorporate that into our response. Would you be happy to go down that route? Yeah. Okay. So in that case, then we'll go to the. Is there any questions? David, yes, sorry.
Thanks, Chair. On page 297, 312, it makes mention of establishing the rail link between Dumfries and Stranraer and Cairnryan, options which are going to be presented for further assessment. I'm just wondering whether something can be reflected in our comments showing our council's support for that campaign.
I think we've agreed to examine all potential transport issues, right, as long as they're meeting the climate stuff, and I would suggest that's already agreed by the council in our council statement. I'm looking at our champion, he's nodding, so Dougie, you want to help me out here, and I'm assuming that is included in what you're championing just now?
Absolutely. Transport infrastructure, modes of transport are areas that there's going to have to be some really difficult decisions made, both here in Dumfries and Galloway and in Scotland, across the whole of the UK. And it's going to be at the forefront of the Scottish Government's minds, as I understand it, in terms of, you know, improving transport infrastructure. However, it can't be at the expense of the environment and the drive to decrease, if not eliminate, CO2 emissions. It's whether members like it or not, that's the commitment that we've made and the Scottish Government have made.
Okay, does that help, David? Yeah.
It's not mentioned in our comments in the draft final report, and I just wondered whether it could be made reference to within that.
I think that was part of the problem that Willie was picking up on. It was about the total. It wasn't just about the roads. Willie was talking about access to Port of Stranraer, or Cairnryan as it is now. So yeah, I think we can probably incorporate that. And Douglas has got a note of it. So you're happy with that? Yeah. Okay, so with that the case, then, are we noting the draft report, South West Scotland Transport Study, initial appraisal, and then noting the 5 transport planning objectives developed through the study to address the problems identified in the 23 multimodal option packages, and then that's at paragraphs 311 to 312, and then finally 3, agree the Council's response to the feedback survey, which is the appendix, plus addition of some of the members' comments this morning. Okay, you comfortable with that? Thank you very much. It's agreed, yeah. I was just asking if there's lunch been booked, but I don't know, it doesn't seem to be here yet, is it? Right, okay, so in that case then, we'll keep going until it's here. We'll move on to item 12, which is the Flood Protection Schemes Update Report. Members are provided with an update on the Council's flood protection schemes for the White Sands, Newton Stewart, Langham and Stranraer, and are asked to agree additional funding to enable the schemes to progress. Brian Templeton, supported by Michael Smith, will take any questions on the report. Just like to add that the White Sands thing is still no sub judice quite, but it's still in the hands of Scottish reporters, somewhere between Scottish ministers, so it's really just an update, a courtesy update. The thrust of the paper is on the other ones and some different actions we need to take. So if we can concentrate on that, that would be very helpful. So can we move to questions? Willie?
Yeah, Chair, I want to raise the issue on page 311 under 3.21, where it says Stranraer was identified as a potentially vulnerable area on CEPA's National Flood Risk Assessment in 2011. I think it was even before that, when we actually modelled, we brought forward the flood prevention for the whole of Stranraer and how we would move forward on it. What I've got here, Chair, and it's within the report, is we've got as part of work item 4, we've got the spout wells situation of flood prevention and people who have been constantly living in fear of whenever it rains to any degree that their houses are going to be flooded, and that's been the past, and we've taken the precautions or to actually pump the water, take away the pressure, and by nature or virtue as to spout wells, you can understand why wells just keep spouting up. So we take away the pressure by pumping into a floodplain. However, in 16th of April 2019, I received an email to say that what was proceeding to begin in June of 2019 for the spout wells part of the flood prevention, and if it was delayed, it would be mid-July. That was with all the contract strategy ready to be signed, the tender document package being checked and reviewed internally, the land being checked, and the environmental assessment. Nobody updated. Now I'm being told, and the report states it, that because of the original estimated costs rising from 400 to 1 million, it's being brought back here. We need this scheme accelerated. Not accelerated, but dates met. We've already had 2 delays, if not more, in terms of this work proceeding, and we need it done as a matter of urgency. And if it's approved today, I would hope that this committee will say that we need this work done. Delays are unacceptable. So they're not, in my opinion, and we should be striving to meet those dates, as they were when I received the correspondence in April 2019. So what we've got is people out there who are totally dissatisfied with the services that we are delivering, and quite frankly, you know, how it has risen from 400k to 1 million against the rate of inflation just dumbfounds me in terms of the whole issue here. I think that we need, I'm hoping that the committee would support me in saying that we give a clear instruction that we want this work to move on as quickly as possible in the flood prevention scheme, Chair.
We'll obviously wait till the debate's finished, Willie, and then we'll come. Can I just ask, to stop us jumping about all over here, let's go a scheme at a time. So we've started in Stranraer. Is there any more questions on Stranraer, Ian, and then I'll let you in come into. Is it on Stranraer? No. It would be easier for everybody if we dealt with one scheme at a time. Yeah. Anyone else? No comment about Willie's. Yeah, okay. So we've got your position, Willie. We know where you are. Okay, so let's go to Newton Stewart. Or sorry, Ian, which one are you looking for?
It's mentioned in Newton Stewart, and unfortunately it's also mentioned in another scheme, so it's very difficult to separate them. But I'll try and make it as brief as possible. In that respect, it's also not mentioned in White Sands or in Stranraer. First of all, it's the term. Now, I appreciate that some members know, probably to a degree, what this term means, but being relatively new to this, it's a term optimism bias that comes in, and it would appear to affect the benefit-cost ratio. And that's mentioned in both the Newton Stewart ones. It's not actually mentioned in the Langham, although the cost-benefit is, so it's kind of omitted from the second. It's really just, I tried to find out what this was about. I have a basic understanding of it, but it may be that other members don't really understand it fully. To be perfectly honest, I don't really fully understand it. If you look at the Newton Stewart one, it has an optimum bias of 60%. I would like to know what 60% of what, because that seems to be quite a high bias that they're putting on any scheme. Also, with regard to Newton Stewart, I appreciate the increase in the funding required is because the scheme is intended, or it's proposed to be extended. I noticed in paragraph 3.7 it actually meant that when this was initially looked at, that to obtain this benefit cost ratio above 1, it could only be restricted to Newton Stewart. I'd like to know what's changed in that makes it that it can now be extended. And if I could maybe reserve the right to come back on others as they come. But okay.
Yeah. To make it easier for, but scheme issues, then overarching ones, of course, we can deal with. Yes, you're absolutely, there's no problem. I don't know if is there a question there, Ian?
Yes, basically, and an explanation of the term optimum bias, benefit cost ratio, and why, what this 60% reflects. That's the basic question in that. And also the second main one was why it would now appear to be okay to extend the Newton-Stewart scheme when initially it was found to get this benefit cost ratio above 1, it could only be restricted to Newton-Stewart.
Okay, Brian.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Yeah, I'll quickly cover the optimum bias is a sort of figure that it's a standard figure. This 60% is always added on at the outset of each project, and it basically covers any risks through your project. If you're outlining design and going through, like this, optimum bias can come down, and it usually comes down before it goes to flood order. You can change from optimum bias, and you can have a risk pot, so you can have either or, but it's basically just to cover risks that are unseen. So and this optimum bias is added on to scheme costs, so it's to try not come with a scheme cost, and then you find out factors and risks, and then your scheme cost suddenly shoots up. So you'd hope that 60% optimum bias, which is a sort of standard sort of setting that you'd add on most schemes at the outset, would cover any unforeseen circumstances.
Thank you for that. If I could come back just on that one question. I now understand it's a standard 60%. Who actually sets that 60%? Who assesses that? And also, if you look at the Newton-Stewart scheme, where the revised scheme cost is 12.5 million, does that include the 60%, or is that 60% on top of that figure?
Yeah, as I say, it's a standard sort of 60% figure. It's just standard throughout the sort of country. Newton-Stewart, that figure does have the 60% optimum bias on. Throughout schemes, and I don't want to go into too much depth here, we can maybe pick up online. It's like a 3-stage. You have the first study, and that has a quick desktop study of what's needed. And that showed you at that time that to have any cost benefit above 1 in Newton-Stewart, you can only protect Newton-Stewart side. As our process went, and you get additional survey work, and you do additional modelling works, it was showing that you could do some sort of works to the mini-gaff side. So throughout a scheme, as soon as you get more information, it's best practice to always rerun these models, because it could change. It could change back the sort of opposite way, that you're hoping to do both sides, and then modelling shows you when you've got more information there that that you can't get a benefit cost above 1. And it's seen to get a sort of viable scheme that you always have to have above 1. But there seems to be a sort of slight change from the Scottish Government, even if it's slightly under 1. If you can show it's a viable scheme through other factors, you could still, Scottish Government would possibly still, give funding to it.
You okay with that, Ian? Sorry, I'm
certainly
taking advice.
Okay, that's enough for my brain right now.
We made a decision, Chair, Vice Chair, and Director, and that to have a series of meetings where the different service groups would be able to explain exactly what they were up and doing, all the technicalities and stuff like that. I'm not cutting across the debate here, but we just maybe keep that in mind, and these will be coming programmed up in the near future so that members can actually be appraised of the nuances, shall we say, of the different service areas, especially those of us who are no EEI veterans and moved across to here. So that was it. So Ian, you finished with your thing. Derek, you want that bit with Willie? Can you give us
No, in terms of all schemes that are agreed today, obviously dependent upon the decisions taken and the decisions ultimately, if appropriate, not in the Stranraer case, but in the other schemes, finance, I wouldn't give it its proper title, the finance committee, but be assured officers will then progress these within timescales. However, as always, the public health warning will always be we will follow due process, and therefore there will be statutory processes which will have to be followed. If there are any unforeseen or unavoidable delays, quite clearly there will have to be, as I said in the earlier item, clear communication with firstly the affected members and secondly the wider public. But we're certainly not working on the basis of a delay, but we can never rule that out in following due process. We cannot simply have no regard for due process. We have to follow it, but we are certainly mindful of the adverse impact flooding has on communities, and I discussed that with the member only this week. So be assured the adverse impact is clearly understood, and all steps will be taken to ensure this work is prioritised. That's why this report's before members today, to get decisions, to get things moving forward.
Okay, anyone else? No. Sorry? Ronnie, sorry.
This is not a question, Chair, actually.
Sorry,
it's not a question, actually, but I'd like to say that, across at Langham, actually, the trial pits have started. They're digging to get, ground consistency. They're looking at surveys on the utilities. So, this thing needs to be moved forward for Langham, actually, because of the infrastructure fatigue that we've got across there because of the flooding problems. But, they've already started across at Langham, so I have to congratulate them for that.
Thank you very much, Ronnie. Does that conclude the Langham flood protection scheme? Everybody else got the question right? No. So we've done them all. The White Sands one is merely an update of where we are. We've given an earn to the other schemes that are highlighted in the report. So are we happy to note the position on the White Sands? Okay. Note the progress and increase in project costs for the Newton Stewart Flood Protection Scheme, and agree to a report being submitted to the Finance, Transformation and Procurement Committee on the 29th of October on funding the increased cost of the Newton Stewart Flood Protection Scheme set out in paragraphs 3.4 to 3.9. Agreed? 3. Agree the next steps and amended earliest timescales of the Newton Stewart Flood Protection Scheme, paragraphs 3.10 to 3.11. Agreed? 4 is note the progress and increase in project costs for the Langham Flood Protection Scheme and agree that a report is submitted to the Finance, Transformation and Procurement Committee in relation to additional funding once the Langham Flood Protection Scheme has a preferred option as set out in paragraphs 312 to 318. We agreed? Noted, sorry, yep. And 5, agree the next steps and amended earliest timescales of the Langham Flood Protection Scheme, paragraphs 319 to 320. Agreed? Okay, then note the background and progress on the Stranraer Flood Protection Scheme, paragraphs 321 to 328. 7, agree to progress the work item 4, phase 1 at Spout Wells, Stranraer, as soon as possible. Willie?
Yeah, Chair, could we change that and agree to progress the work on item 4, phase 1 at Spout Wells as a matter of urgency, rather than that, and take out this carried out in 2020-21, and that members will be apprised of the progress. I'm happy to move that, Chair, to take out that reference to 2021 and have it as a matter of urgency.
Well,
given the 2 delays and what the Director has said.
If you just give me a second, Willie, I'll let you come in once I've finished asking, and then you can come in with that. If you want to amend that and you've got a seconder, then obviously we can move to a vote. Okay, so agree to progress with work item 4, phase 1 at Spout Wells, Stranraer as soon as possible, with phase 2 to be carried out on 2021, paragraphs 329 to 330. Okay, are we agreed on that or not? Willie?
Chair, I would put the amendment to that and agree to progress with work on item work item phase 4, phase 1 at Spout Wells as a matter of urgency, and members be kept apprised of the situation.
I take it you've got a seconder, Tommy? Okay.
the recommendation.
I'll second it. Okay, we got the recommendations. So, we clear what we're voting on here?
Okay, thank you, Chair. We've got a vote on recommendation 2.7 in the report. Motion proposed by Councillor Scobie, seconded by Councillor Sloan, to agree to progress the work item 4, phase 1 at Spoutwells, Stranraer, as a matter of urgency, and members should be apprised of the situation.
Yes. Hey, Rob.
I guess I've been quite quiet and good-natured today. What's the difference between as soon as possible and a matter of urgency?
A vote. It's a very good question, but it's a vote, basically.
I probably wasted 4 years studying English literature then, because I can't understand the difference.
Well, absolutely, but we're moving the vote. But you're.
Thank you for your forbearance,
Chairman. A motion and an amendment, so can you?
Okay, and the amendment proposed by the Vice Chair, seconded by yourself, to go with the wording and recommendation 2.7 as in the report.
We're only voting on that one part, yeah, on the Stranraer one.
It's just clarification.
Yeah.
It's, I understood that Councillor Scobie mentioned something about deleting any reference to 2021, and I don't know if that was covered.
I can offer an explanation. If you look at to be carried out in 2021 as soon as possible, this could be January, February, March, April, May, June, any date you get. What I'm saying is, as a matter of urgency, it could be in this year, at the turn of the year. That's a matter of urgency. That's the difference between the timescales as in the recommendation. I'm moving as a matter of urgency so that there is some priority being put to it. That's why I'm saying that. We've already had 2 delays.
Okay, absolutely. Now, we're moving the vote, actually. We're just explaining what the vote is, right? So it's either with the amendments or recommendations or Willie's motion. Am I right? Yeah.
Right, going to the vote then, Chair.
Amendment.
Vice Chair.
Amendment.
Councillor Blake.
Motion.
Councillor Campbell.
Amendment.
Councillor Davidson.
Amendment.
Councillor Fairbairn.
Motion.
Councillor Howie.
Motion.
Councillor Ingalls.
Motion.
Councillor James. Yeah. Councillor Little.
Amendment.
Councillor Scobie.
Motion.
Councillor Sloan.
Motion.
Councillor Tate.
Motion.
Councillor Wilson.
Amendment.
Councillor Wood. And Councillor Young.
Amendment.
Motion's carried, 8 votes to 7.
Thank you. So we'll be amended the recommendation to reflect that. Okay, so sorry? Yes.
Just for clarity, I think this is the first time I've ever seen a recommendation as urgently as possible, or as soon as possible, whatever the wording was. We work in this council really on programming. That's what we've done. 2021 is what was there. What does as urgent as possible actually mean? I would have thought that if there was a change to how it was programmed, it should come back to this committee,
point of order.
Which could then actually mean
point of order,
that you know, as urgently as possible. Does that mean that actually, if it's ready to start next week, it could go ahead, or would it have to come back to this committee, which would then mean it's not as urgent as possible? I would have asked this beforehand, but you know, we move straight to the vote. It's just I'm not quite sure what that means in terms of governance.
There's been a vote, been a decision taken. We move on from there. Willie, we don't need, I don't particularly want a point of order because I don't think we need one really. We just accept it that's the result and that's what the wording's going to be. Okay.
I asked for governance advice. on what that decision actually means in terms of the governance of this council and how that decision is implemented. And I haven't actually received that.
Well, the wording from the Councillor Scobie's motion was as a matter of urgency. It's up for officers to interpret that.
We are where we are. The other part that we need to move forward on here then is, that was, let me see now, that was item 7, was it? Yeah. So item 8 is note the work item 6 at Black Park to be progressed in 2021, and that phase 1 purchase of land may need to be accelerated into this year's programme. It's set out in paragraph 3.31. Right, we happy with that to note? And then 9, agree that the additional funding for the Stranraer flood protection scheme be allocated from the infrastructure asset class budget in 2021, paragraphs 3.3. Agreed? Thank you. I'm reliably informed lunch is here. I'm happy to take a break at this time, and we'll meet back here in, what time is that now? 1:15. Come back at 1:15. Yeah? Half an hour? Thank you. Well, folks, that's the recess over. Happy to start. Okay, we move on to item 13. DG Performance and the Lord Burn Hall Forward Plan, report by the Head of Safe and Healthy Communities. I have to say, delighted to see the public impact of DG1 since it reopened to the public in July this year. I'd wish to publicly thank the people of Dumfries and Galloway and our visitors for supporting the facility and embracing their own health and well-being. It is a fantastic facility, and we are fortunate to have such a hard-working staff team. In particular, this report provides members with an update on the operational performance of DG1 Leisure Complex since it reopened on the 15th of July, focusing on usage levels, customer feedback, emerging opportunities, and the relocation of the Youth Inquiry Service into the facility, and also to update members on the current position regarding the future of Lord Burn Hall following the reopening of DG1. I've got Richard Greaves in here and Lee Seaton to answer questions you may have. Richard, is there anything you'd like to add to this at the moment?
Nothing to add, Chair. Happy to take questions.
Okay, so how about I go straight to questions? Adam?
No, I'd just like to welcome this report. I think it's important that, for DG1 and all our leisure facilities, we continue to monitor progress. But given the keen interest of elected members and the public, I think it's important that we get these facts out there. I think this proves that the council took the right decision to go ahead with getting DG1 back opened, and not only in our leisure and wellbeing facilities, but we're seeing our youth work service make the most of that fantastic space on the top floor. And I look forward to seeing opportunities with wider health and social care colleagues that will come from DG1. So I think it is a real well done to the team, and let's hope this good performance continues.
Thank you. Anyone else? John Young.
Thanks, Chair. I'd just like to thank the leisure staff for the speed at which they've removed the temporary swimming pool at the Ice Bowl and got that car park extended and resurfaced and set out for parking. It's an excellent job.
Just got to concur what Adam and them say. Like, as I say, DG1, feedback I've been getting from the public is absolutely excellent. But the question I've just got to ask, have we had any feedback yet from the Lord Burn Hall Trust on their latest position?
Thank you, Councillor Martin. Yes, so at the time of writing the report, I had received contact from the chair of the Lord Burn Hall Community Trust that explained that they were still considering their options at that time, but they had dropped from 11 trustees down to 3. However, since going to print, on Saturday just past, we've had further contact from the current chair, which now advises that she is stepping down, leaving 2 trustees. However, those 2 remaining trustees have indicated to her that they do have an interest in staying on the Lord Burn Hall Community Trust as serving trustees,
and that the current chair has asked that they confirm that position or any other intentions to the council, i.e. myself, by the 27th of September as previously asked. So I have had further contact from community organisations who have expressed an interest should the Community Trust choose to step back. But likewise, members, I'll be pointing any interested community parties towards the Lorburn Hall Community Trust should they continue to remain existing, so that discussions can happen between those parties.
Okay, so just for clarity, sorry John, you went back in? No, go.
The trust, would it be correct of that 2 members? Have they made any, do we know if they've got any before the 27th, if they'll have enough to actually run a trust?
I haven't yet seen any information in terms of their governance and constitution, Councillor Martin. I'll certainly go back to pick that up with them, because that would have to be part of the decision-making process as to whether they can co-opt additional trustees on. I'm still waiting on feedback from their official position.
Okay, so just for clarity, the current position is that they're still technically in existence, yeah, although there's only 2, and you're waiting for an update, and they have been asked to update the council, i.e. through you, by the 27th of September, is that right? Okay, now I'm assuming on the 27th of September, if it goes forward, if they continue to go forward, then we'll obviously continue to work with them, I would suggest, or anyone else. If it doesn't go forward, you will then use the council processes of disposing of assets that have been declared excess. Is that right? Yeah. Okay. And that's the process, isn't it? Yeah.
Correct, Chair. Yes.
Yeah, thanks, Lee. Have we any questions? David?
Yes. Going in the new building, I mean, I couldn't speak to its quality, but it's certainly a better design than the first variant we had, and visitor numbers are high, which is encouraging. But given the debt burden that's placed on us and the ongoing cost that we'll have to run it, and the responsibility it gives us and the amount of resources it gums up as administering the thing, have we looked at selling it?
Richard, or Derek will take it, yeah.
Thanks, Chairman. Officers have no remit to make any proposals along these lines, Councillor.
Answer that one.
I mean, am I the only one who thinks that we should consider that? Because
for conjecture, no, if you read the day, David, that's right. For full council to decide.
Probably
yeah.
I'm alone, yeah.
David?
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, welcome this. It's great to see that it's got off to a flying start, as it did in 2007. First 2 years in 2007, 2008, 2008, 2009, the figures were on the increase. Then it started to drop off fairly dramatically. So I would hope that it continues the way it is. I hope there is real scrutiny on how this business performs over the next 5 years, because we don't want to be in a position 5 years' time where we were in 2013. Yeah.
Okay. No comment?
Just to say, Chair, that we too welcome that scrutiny, Councillor. We're happy to report back as part of the agreed performance cycle. As you correctly state, the performance thus far has been very good, very positive. The building itself is performing well. I, for one, am not expecting, excuse me, the same challenges that were perhaps then a consequence of the reduction in numbers that previously we witnessed.
Okay. Anyone else? No. In that case, we'll go to the recommendations. So, are we happy to note the successful operation in the first month of DG1 exceeding 53,000 attendances, gaining a 95% customer satisfaction rating, increasing membership by 97%, and completing the relocation of the Youth Inquiry Service into the second floor of the facility, as set out in paragraph 3.8 onwards. Okay, note the current position regarding the future of the Lorburn Hall, paragraphs 3.33 to 3.38, and we acknowledge that the officers will either take forward or bring back whatever that situation brings. Yeah, okay. Thanks very much. Thank you. Okay, we move on to item 14. Public Convenience Services Review. It's an update, actually. It's not the finished article. Before I take any questions or open this up, I just want to put in record thanks Karen and the team for presenting such a comprehensive report on our options for taking forward public conveniences in the region, and the seminars and that have been well attended and very useful, I would suggest. Yeah. At the recent Beautiful Scotland Awards, the resounding theme was that with cuts in local government expenditure, there needs to be a new relationship with communities. Our council is well on its way to embracing this new way of working, and it's a key part of our council transformation. The success of projects across Dumfries and Galloway is testimony to our community's model. Members will have found a Beautiful Scotland delegate back on their seats, and both John and I have been presented with trowels. Okay, that's to dig us out a hole when we lose a vote. Boom, boom, well, before you say anything. Right, now I've lost my place. We'll, of course, we're going to record them in the Register of Interest because they're limited edition. They might be on eBay soon. Report updates members on the Public Convenience Service Review to help shape the future provision of these facilities across Dumfries and Galloway. I'll better put that down. Karen is here to take any questions. Karen, have you anything to add to this at the moment?
Nothing further to add, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So, given this is an update, have we any questions? David?
Yes, I'm not going to ask you what you're going to do with your trowel in the context of the public convenience. Castle Douglas obviously prides itself in its appearance to visitors and residents, and toilets are exceedingly important. I think there's a willingness in Castle Douglas to look at different models, and could we have, therefore, any information that we know about places that have run the toilets on a sort of quasi-commercial basis, charging for use? Bigger has been mentioned. I don't have any details about bigger toilets. Footfall, I guess, is very difficult to measure. Have we ever measured that anywhere? And is there a sustainable model out there that when a community has taken over toilet blocks?
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, councillors. In terms of visitors to the area and other local authorities that we've benchmarked with in Appendix 4 in front of you, councillors, there is information which has come back through APSI in terms of what other local authorities have done. There's information within that with regards to comfort schemes, to working with communities, to asset transfer, etc. So that there's information in there. In terms of footfall for our own 58 facilities across Dumfries and Galloway, in Appendix 1, as you'll see, we have 58 public conveniences. It was very difficult for us to get an accurate footfall without putting footfall counters in. So what we have done is that we have measured the amount of toilet roll use throughout our facilities. It gives us an approximate and an indicative figure, and it gives us something to work with. Otherwise, there was no other comparison across each of the 58 facilities that we could have utilised. In terms of sustainable models, again, I'll refer to Appendix 4 and the information we've got from APSI, but I would also bring members' attention to the Cumbria model, whereby that local authority closed 6 facilities. Those 6 facilities have been asset transferred to the community. Leadership funding was sought, and I can point members in the direction of the Facebook page Cumbria Cludgy Cleaner, and they employ a member of staff to go around those 6 facilities. So there is some good examples out there. The project team are still looking at further examples and are still benchmarking with other facilities.
And could we have could I have the information such as you have, maybe the contacts, these other communities you mentioned, and I'll guess we'll get the update at the committee for your next revision of this, but I think we'll leave it there.
certainly happy to share that information with members.
David, I'd just echo just a minute. Well, I would just echo that, David, because we're looking for local solutions, you know, as local as we can get, because that will vary from place to place. How local businesses, how local people, how we deal with it. So we're going to have to change the way we think. Yeah. I've got Willie first, and then.
Yeah, Chair, and do note that it's an update report, and indeed the initiative is not new to Dumfries and Galloway Council, perhaps to this current council, but it has been tried in the past. But I note with interest on page 345, under the targeted consultation, Cairn Ryan comes out as number of responses 0. Karen will be well aware of the community council there, and at the last meeting just a week ago, they did emphasise that given the importance of Cairn Ryan as a strategic point, both in terms of the 2 ports and the lay-by where the toilet is located, it is extensively used, then they would want, further discussion or consultation with Cairn in terms of the future of that toilet and its purpose being there, because I note on page 351 there's a change of figures. Cairn Ryan with number of responses 37, and again I note the Stranraer New Park in Hanover Square is relatively high in comparison to some of the other ones. So in that respect, it's that the Community Council just want to put on record that they would not want to see any change, or indeed if the change, it's to improve the services rather than the reduction of the service at Cairn Ryan for strategic reasons, as stated earlier.
Good. Any comment?
Thank you, Chair. The only thing I would like to say in response to Councillor Scobie is the targeted customer research was just that, and it was, there was nobody at the site when we were there. However, what I would say is through the community conversations, Cairn Ryan sent in email representation.
Anyone else? No. In that case, then we'll move to the recommendations. We're asked 1, to note the positive progress made to date by the Public Convenience Project Team following a robust programme of engagement involving communities, customers, staff, businesses and partners. That's the appendices 1 to 4. And then 2, agree the comfort scheme criteria as detailed, and the officers continue to discuss further with local businesses to determine interest in the scheme. That's paragraphs 3.23 to 3.25. Agreed. 3, agree to offer communities the option of managing facilities under a redrafted management agreement, offering a small financial incentive set out in paragraphs 3.26 to 3.31. Agreed. 4, agree to further investigate the options of an entrance charge, paragraphs 3.32 to 3.37, and mobile cleaning of some facilities set out in paragraph 3.38 and 3.41. Happy to agree? Thank you. 5, agree consistent opening and closing times throughout Dumfries and Galloway, set out in paragraphs 3.42 to 3.44. Right. And 6, agree to receive a further report to this committee in November this year to review options to achieve the savings that are set out in paragraph 3.52. Happy to agree that? Okay. Thank you very much. Thanks, Karen. Okay, move on to item number 15, face-to-face integrated customer service centres, service review, budget savings, report by the Head of Neighbourhood Services. Report provides members with an update on the pre-consultation engagement concerning the integrated customer services centres across Dumfries and Galloway. And we've got Ailsa here to take any questions this report. Okay, Ailsa, have you anything to add? Thank you. In that case, we'll just go straight to recommendations. 1 is note the progress to date in relation to integrated facilities review set out at paragraphs 3.1 to 3.3, and 2, agree that a detailed engagement plan will be presented to this committee in January 2020 for approval. Okay, agreed. Thank you very much, everybody. Thanks, Elsa. 16, welfare reform update, universal credit, report by Head of Neighbourhood Services. The Council is determined to prevent evictions, maximise people's incomes and tackle inequality and poverty. This report asks members to note the update on the rollout of universal credit, the local impacts and the wider work being undertaken by the welfare team. And Paula Doherty is here to take any questions on the report. Paula, have you any you need to add? No, thank you. So I'm going to open up the questions. No, again, I'm quite happy. Willie, yes?
Yeah, Chair, again, I would want to echo the sentiments you expressed at the beginning of the meeting in terms of the service.
Yes.
That this, the Department Paula and our Department deliver. And again, I would applaud Paula and on the number of times I've had to contact them. And again, I'm just looking at 3.4 in terms of the Scottish Welfare Fund and indeed any other application made, and had 2 recent reasons to contact Paula, and whether indeed there is any scope within our department to try and speed matters up in terms of the time that it takes to deliver these welfare fund grants. And also maybe to ask, the question in terms of poverty that's being experienced throughout Dumfries and Galloway, in terms of the increased workload on her department, what the effect of that is.
Okay, thank you. The processing times for Scottish Welfare Fund are well within Scottish Government targets. We would, of course, love to process them even faster. However, there becomes a point where it has to take as long as it takes. In relation to poverty and how it's affected the work of the team, as mentioned in the report, we have seen a 36% increase in crisis grant applications on the same period last year, and a 28% increase in community care grant applications. That's on the same period last year, not from the beginning. That work is absorbed within the team, and this committee has agreed to provide extra funding to provide additional resources to support that delivery. Universal credit, as also noted in the report, has caused a reduction in our caseload for housing benefit as these customers move to universal credit. However, again, due to the work of the team, we have managed to maintain our council tax reduction numbers by ensuring that customers who apply for universal credit apply and are awarded this reduction as appropriate. I'm not entirely sure how I could make comment on whether or not we're capturing everyone within the area. However, we are constantly looking at take-up to ensure that anyone who is eligible for support applies for and accesses that support.
Willie, do you want to come back in, yeah?
Yeah, Chair, and I think Paula's team's to be commended in how she's tackling what is a huge problem brought about by the austerity that we still continue to face. And whatever efforts she needs, I hope that this committee would respond to, to try to get to the people who are really suffering poverty and the effects of poverty.
I actually think that was I agree with your sentiments. It was a statement, I think, there rather than a commendation for the staff. Absolutely. I mean, the bit that gets me here is the volume and the complexity sometimes that they're having to deal with. And I'd rather they took an extra couple of hours and made sure they got it right than pushed it through and didn't they? I think, has anyone else got any other questions? No. In that case, I'll go to the recommendations. And given there's a lot of them, I'll just say, are we happy to move the recommendations? Are members happy to agree the recommendations from 2.1 to 2.6? Okay, thank you very much. And once again, Paul, congratulations and well done. Thank you. Okay, we'll move on to item 17, the involving communities in tackling poverty through participative budgeting, 2017-18 and 2019-20. A report by Head of Neighbourhood Services. The report provides members with an update on our ambitious proposals for involving communities in tackling poverty through participative budgeting. Harry Hayes, supported by Wendy Jesson, will take any questions in this report. Have the two of you got any you want to add at this time?
Only, Chair, that members have been provided a high-level impact of the funding that's been invested to date, and assuming that members agree, it will be the 4 area committees that will get the real detailed level of information for local scrutiny. But happy to answer any other questions.
Thanks. I'm assuming it will be suitable so that we can identify people when it comes to local area committees, so that's kind of crucial. So just that, I'm happy to get that reassurance. Adam?
Thanks. I just wanted to take the opportunity to welcome that principle of community participation and community empowerment in action through this approach in tackling poverty. So, really happy with the report coming forward.
Yeah, Chair, and similar to what Adam was saying there, and just the way that Wendy and I can't say I don't know if she's got a team, but she definitely works on tireless hours in trying to deliver the poverty strategy round about this participatory budgeting process. But I'm just looking at the objectives, objective 1, 2, 3, 4, and I have no problems with any of the 4. But we have projects out there in Dumfries and Galloway, throughout the whole of Dumfries and Galloway, who are also contributing towards the tackling poverty. And they I would imagine, would be applying for some of the funding. But one of the areas that we seem to have excluded is the ability for them to apply where they employ people within the budgets that they get or they got last year. And I think that we're losing out on this if we don't include that in part of the objective.
Wally, it's a great question. Can I ask you to park it to the next agenda item? Because we're taking that forward because this is historical. So I take it, your point's well made, but the next item on the agenda is actually looking at how we take it forward. And
my fear is, Chair, if we don't put it in as an objective in the participatory budget, many of the projects would not apply. That's my fear. If we don't recognise that to deliver some of these projects in dealing with poverty, notwithstanding the 4 there, in terms of how we move people on from poverty, that's the objective.
Absolutely, Willie, but this was what was agreed in 2015. Okay. Absolutely. So the next agenda item will address what you're saying. Right, okay. So I don't want to take away your answer, but...
Thank you. Whether it's mental health, obesity or drug abuse, poverty, etc., I think usually when we set out to tackle it, we usually end up increasing it. And I would be happy if we would promote prosperity as a way out of poverty rather than tackle poverty. But given we're doing that, I thought that this was going to be part of the participatory budgeting amount, and also thought I remembered it was going to ramp up to 1% of the total budget by 2021 or something like that. Could we know more about how much participatory budgeting there's going to be, and is it all going to be anti-poverty as we go through the next 2 or 3 years? Thank you.
Derek?
Thanks, Chair. Thanks, Councillor James. Can certainly assure the member that the Council's commitment to poverty is making a huge difference and is a lifeline to vulnerable people across Dumfries and Galloway and is much needed. What I would further say is this Council is also demonstrating across Scotland we're breaking new ground. Our street scene model was commended last week because that is in essence participatory budgeting, because people now can influence the priorities on the ground. So we're well on the way as part of this Council's 1% commitment to reach that and exceed it over time. So I can certainly assure the member that we're working hard on that commitment and it's making a real difference to our communities.
On the figures, if you'll indulge me, please, Chairman, how much is the total amount of participatory budgeting this year, the next year and the year after that?
Thank you, Chairman. The figures before you are the figures for participatory budgeting under poverty. quite clearly there's a separate report on the wider issues of participatory budgeting which are not before members today. So what I'll give you the answer to is what's before you today, and that's the figures that are defined in the report, and therefore the totals amount to £200,000 last year. But as I've said earlier, the 1% is not an allocated fund, it's the ability for our communities to influence spend.
Thank you.
Yeah, and just to point out, David, at 3.1, objective 2 is to support people experiencing poverty to move from dependence to independence, which I think captures what you were trying to say. You would encourage people. Yes, comes to the same thing.
Prosperity is better than poverty. Yeah.
I'm not another voting words, but you know what I mean. Yes. Right. Anyone else? No. Well, in that case, then I'll go to the recommendations. And again, I'm just going to ask you here, are you happy to agree the recommendations from 2.1 to 2.3? Agreed? Thank you very much, everybody. Thanks, Wendy. Okay, moving on to item 18, the next steps in our Council's approach to tackling poverty and inequalities. A report by the Head of Safe and Healthy Communities. The report provides members with proposals for the review of the anti-poverty strategy from 2015 to 2020, i.e. the current one. In particular, it proposes the establishment of a member officer working group to oversee the review of the strategy and develop our future approach. I've got Richard Greason here and Mark Malloy to take any questions. And have you got anything you want to add at this stage, folks? No. Okay, the flurry of hands going up. Okay, Adam, and then Wally.
Thanks, I really welcome this report coming forward. I think it's important that we start to work on what our next strategy will look like. I think it's important to mark there's been a number of successes in the strategy that has ran since 2015. And absolutely, as we have put in new initiatives and tried to do new things in a different way, that there will be some learning experiences that we'll take forward. And I welcome this plan forward in terms of setting up the working group. That there's just one thing that I would like to add in the current strategy is the action of mapping the poverty that exists in our region. I'm not entirely sure where we're at with that. First of all, what I would suggest is that's very much key to our new strategy and where that will take us forward. But secondly, it's a fact, obviously, since 2015, that the poverty in this region has without a doubt increased, and in particular in-work poverty has increased, and there's a flurry of statistics that explain that, and I think that it's essential that the work that we do to map poverty reflects the changes that there's been over the last 5 years, and that will act as a sort of really informative part of data in creating a new strategy.
Thanks. Do you want to make any comment on that? Yep.
Thanks, Chair. Just to say that I think within the report in 3.12.1, it says within that one of the first things that we need to do as part of that review is look at the data, because obviously the good work that was done previously in terms of that mapping is now a number of years out of date, and we're in a different place, I think, in society now. So certainly that will be one of the first tasks in that, in terms of getting a good understanding of the good work that's getting done by third sector organisations, community groups and our council across the region.
Yeah, I mean, quite rightly, it's reviewing what we've done, the effectiveness of what we've been doing, and then what changes are going to be recommended, but that will all come out of the wash as we go through a process here, I would suggest. Anyone else?
Yes.
Wally, sorry, yeah.
Chair, just to follow on from a previous, and thank you for the direction you gave there in terms of item 18, because the same four are there. I'm looking at 310 and reviewing the anti-poverty strategy, then it's undoubtedly the case in many partnerships, both from the voluntary sector and indeed the projects that are providing that opportunity for people who are living in poverty, that there are projects there that start to tackle the issue of poverty. I'm looking at the food banks, I'm looking at the Kate's Kitchen, the Fed Up Coffee in Stranraer, the various other kitchens that are springing up all over the place, and it's important that we recognise that. In recognising that, then it's also that we should be recognising that some do employ people to deliver those services as well. And while there are volunteers, there are also paid staff to make sure that we have the continuity. And there are on the food sharing and the various other aspects of that. So I would hope that we can build into the objective, just to what I was saying, that we don't exclude those projects from making the application to the participatory budget for the funding, that it can cover some of the staff costs who are working in the voluntary sector, but they still manage to employ people to deliver that. So I would like to see that there be an objective built in there that still permits, provided that the projects can demonstrate how they're providing or tackling the poverty issues. I would hope the committee were with us without needing to go to a vote, Chair.
No, I don't think we'll need to go to a vote here, will we, at all? I mean, we've got the consultation mandate that Mark's got here in front of us, and that sets out the timescales and how we're going to do it. And there's nothing off the table. Everything's on the table. And it'll be evidence-based like the original very laudable strategy was, and it was as a result of a proper research, and that's exactly what we're going to do again. We've got things like 10,000 voices, you know, and for me, something that's come up to me was almost every single young person talked about transport. Every single one, you know. It didn't matter if they were in my ward, or in Stranraer, or in Annandale, you know. They were all saying there was a problem with transport. So I think what we're saying here is that we're giving Mark the mandate to go away, do his job, and then bring back the stuff. And obviously members will be involved every step of the way in the process. Because, can you remind me again, just the officer, what's the thing for the member officer working group?
It's a representative from each political group.
So that everyone will get their opportunity to put their view across. Okay, so that, I'm assuming that would be each of the, yes, everybody. Willie, yeah?
Yeah, just for total clarity, Chair, are we saying that then people, those organisations, those voluntary organisations who do employ, then they're able to apply for the opportunity to draw down on some participatory budget funds? Because, you know, whether we need to put it in as an objective.
Well, no, actually, because what we're asking Mark to do here is to review the current policy to see if it's been effective, right? And then working with the member officer group, then bring forward proposals. It appears to be full council, I would suggest, right? For the next phase of the anti-poverty strategy. So the question you've got is one for how we're going to spend this year's anti-poverty PB money, rather than the work that we're focusing here for Mark, yeah? Because this is giving Mark and Richard the mandate to go away, look what's and all, bring it back to us, tell us what it's all about, and then working with the officers and members, what they see as the vision for taking it forward to our next version of the anti-poverty strategy, which would kick in 2021, by the way, not 2020. Yeah.
Appreciate that, Chair. And so there is time and opportunity to build this into the scheme for the next.
That's why it's okay. You know, everybody thinks 2020 you would stop in April. No, it goes on to December, right? Because that gives you longer actually to get the next round up and running. You know.
I'd say it would be good for this committee to recognise that there is that scope and for voluntary organisations to apply.
Well, I think we've already recognised that, but yeah, we can move on. Anybody else got any questions? David?
Yes, for the reasons I gave before, I don't believe in this strategy at all. But it seems to be quite an industry building up here. But how will we know success? Well, given we've had the stats quoted that everything's going in the wrong direction, so it's not working yet. How will we define success?
I'm going to pass that buck straight to the report writer who's going to be doing it. I think there's a number of tools out there, isn't there, Mark, that we can use to gauge success or lack of it.
Thanks, Chair. I think one of the first things we need to do as part of the review is identify what measures of success looks like for us within our council, but also in terms of our wider community planning partnerships. I think, as we move forward, we need to look at this as not just the council, but how all our community planning partners can collectively work together to really make a difference for the communities. But I think we need to have things in which we can measure it from, so that we know, if the work that the council's put in and our partners put in is making a difference. And that will be one of the first things in terms of that review, again, in terms of what's outlined in 3.12.1.
Anyone else? No. In that case, then I'll move to the recommendations. We're asking one to note the review of the anti-poverty strategy 2015 to 2020. 2, agree the consultation mandate set out as Appendix 1 to review the strategy and develop the Council's future approach to tackling poverty and inequalities. Yeah, okay. And 3, agree to establish a member officer working group to develop the proposed Council approach to tackling poverty for consideration by this committee. And that's paragraphs 312 to 312.3, 312.4. And obviously that will be the first place it would come to, and then from there on into the council system. I'm going to take it, yeah. Okay, yeah. Thanks very much. Okay, we agreed on that. Okay. Thanks, Mark. Okay, we move to item 19, Community Facilities Review, 2013 to 2020. Provides members with an up-to-date position in relation to the Community Facilities Review. Karen, again, is here with Harry to take any questions. Have we anything you want to add or update? Okay, thanks. So I'm just going straight to questions. No questions? Sorry, David.
Thank you, Chair. I have a question. It's to do with the common good. We as a common good committee are trying to get on top of things in our area, and we asked various questions to our ward officer, and due to lack of resources in the legal department, we're having difficulty getting answers. But one question maybe I could ask here, I see the town hall's quoted, but all our buildings, is the idea that the council maintains the buildings and we as the Common Good Fund is credited with the income from those buildings, and is to some extent or to 100% that account is then levied for the cost of the upkeep of the buildings or not? I'm thinking because we have quite a few properties, and we spent £169 total in 1 year on their upkeep, which seemed very, very good. But I'm sceptical as to whether that's really the right amount.
David, we're into individual issues here again. I'm going to ask, can you actually contact the officers concerned, give them the details of the buildings you're talking about, and they can explain to you exactly what the situation is, because it's different every single one, David. And I'm not cutting you down.
Understand.
Okay, it's the Common Good in Dumfries is totally different to the Common Good in Sanker, and whatever.
Is it though in this principle? Because is that the principle that the council? I know the council's the owner of the Common Good assets. The Common Goods don't own their assets anymore, but the Common Good does have an account, and when you want to do something with the Common Good asset, the Common Good is consulted. The Common Good Committee is consulted, but I'm concerned about the maintenance of a building like the Castle Douglas Town Hall, the Macmillan Town Hall, the WT Town Hall, all these town halls that are all mentioned here. Is that something that the Common Good should be paying for to an extent, or not?
Just keep it simple, Chairman. This report does not affect Castle Douglas Town Hall. There's no reference, there's no bearing on it. It's part of the Common Good, and therefore it doesn't feature. And therefore, issues to do with the Castle Douglas Town Hall can either be directed to officers or dealt with through the Common Good Subcommittee. So it's not a factor in this report in any shape or form.
It's a community facility.
Not debating that, I'm debating the point that it doesn't feature in the Community Facilities Review.
Okay. Anyone else? No. Okay, in that case then I'm going to move to the recommendations. Where one is asked is to note the successful achievement of the Community Facilities Review since 2013 and the progress which has been made with the 6 out of the 8 remaining facilities set out in appendix in paragraphs 3.1 to 313. Okay. 2, agree option 1 to implement a new service level agreement with Portpatrick Community Council in relation to the operational management of Portpatrick Village Hall, set out in paragraphs 3.23 to 3.29. Okay. And 3, agree to receive a further update reporting detailing progress on the remaining 2 facilities, which are Portpatrick Hall and Cairnryan Hall, to the 5th of November committee. Okay? Agreed. Thank you very much. Okay, we'll move on to item number 20. Report asks members to agree the Council's response to the Consumer Scotland Bill. Sandra Hartness is here to take any questions. Richard beside her. Welcome, Sandra. Have you anything you want to add at this time, or is there any update?
Nothing to add. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks very much. So, questions? I've got one. You're on the National Working Group. Are you chair at the National Working Group, do you?
I'm the chair of the Chief Officer Society for Trading Standards. So yes, and I've been part of the working group for Consumer Scotland in that role.
Okay, so has anybody got anything they would like to add? Because this is obviously Sandra's expert opinion, I would suggest at this stage. Anybody got anything to add? John?
Thank you, Chair. Does this have any cost implications for the Council?
Chair, there was a financial memorandum alongside this, and the costs within that didn't identify any costs that there should be on local authorities. Any duties that will come around because of the bill are unlikely to have an impact directly on local authorities other than the consumer duty, which means any impact assessment we do, we would have to consider consumers' interest. However, we already have quite an extensive impact assessment, and I don't think that adding in the consumer duty, whilst it's very welcome, that shouldn't actually add much in terms of resource requirement.
Okay, John? Yep. So, any more questions? No. Are we, somebody doing a Boris at the back there? Members are asked to note the proposal to establish a public body called Consumer Scotland and the background details, the stated objectives and purpose of Consumer Scotland, and the call for reviews, which closed on 11 September, but permission has been granted by the Clerk to the Economy, Energy and Fair Work Committee to submit a response following agreement by this committee today, and 2, agree the proposed Council response to the Scottish Parliamentary Committee on Economy, Energy and Fair Work's call for reviews on the Consumer Scotland Bill, set out at paragraph 3.11 in the appendix. Are we happy to agree? Agree. Thank you very much. I've got no other business. Just like to thank everybody who stuck it out to the bitter end. Thank you very much.